of Transport and Infrastructure Division in UNESCAPE, Bangkok, and he retired in June 2000 after 22 years of service with the UN. He is an internationally reputed transfer specialist with over 44 years of experience in Bangladesh and abroad. In Bangladesh, Mr. Rahmatullah started his career in 1962 as a lecturer in the Civil Engineering Department of Kuwait. He also was the Joint Chief Physical Infrastructure Division Planning Division, which he left in 1978 to join the UNESCAPE. Since October 2000, he has been working as the Program Director, Center for Policy Dialogue, Dhaka, where he authorized the CPT policy briefs on transport and infrastructure in 2000 and 2003. Sir, would you please do the honors and come in front and start the session? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to all of you. At the very outset, I would like to say that we are indeed very happy that all our friends, brothers who have been living abroad all these years have come, many of them have come here to find out what they could do for us. And it is a joint actually effort. We all the local people who are here, we are always going to be with you in your efforts, and it is we hope that it will be a joint effort from all of us to do something for Bangladesh, which is badly needed now. And I would not like to extend my introductory remarks now because the time is very short. We are still waiting for our chief advisor, and then is he coming? Not yet. So we are still waiting, and hopefully he will be able to join us. In the meantime, I would like to invite our special guests. And first, I would like to invite Dr. Mahmoud Rahman, is the Secretary, Ministry of Communication, and also with him, Mr. Abdullah Harun Pasha, former Secretary and currently Chairman, Board of Directors, WASA. As well as I would like to welcome Mr. Abu Reza, Dr. Abu Reza. He has been the part of the Planning Commission in the beginning of his career. Then he joined the Islamic Development Bank and retired as a senior official of the Islamic Development Bank and Jeddah, and now currently he is working as an ADB specialist in Afghanistan. So Dr. Abu Reza here. We are waiting for two more special guests. They are still to join us, and so we will start the session in their absence. And the first presenter here will be Mr. Dr. Shoaib Chowdhury, and he will be speaking on development of sustainable transportation system for Dhaka Metropolitan area, issues, challenges and opportunities. It is indeed a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Shoaib Chowdhury. He has been a BUET graduate also, and he graduated from BUET in 1991, and then after that he did his master's in engineering from City College of New York, and then PhD from New Jersey Institute of Technology. He has been in the profession for the last 14 years as a consulting engineer and researcher, and he has produced a number of publications, and as well as he has produced practical solutions to the problems of New York City. And his specialization include a number of areas, particularly network planning. Then he has been also working on corridor and area-wide traffic operations, feasibility studies of light rail, mass transit, as well as rapid bus transit, rapid transit, BRT. So his experience is going to be very, very relevant to our situation that we are facing today. And so I would like to welcome now Dr. Shoaib Chowdhury to start his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Rahmatullah, for your nice introduction about me. And good morning, everybody. I don't want to waste my time. Let's start. My topic is development of sustainable transportation system for Dhaka Metropolitan area, issues, challenges, and opportunities. Before we start my presentation, let's give you the basic idea what sustainability means. This is one of the most widely used definitions. Sustainability means that meets the present generation's needs without jeopardizing future generations' ability to meet theirs. In our case, we have to think, based on this definition, how we can do that in the transportation field. There are three different dimensions of sustainability. so that we can measure it, whether we are practicing sustainable development. One is social sustainability. We have to understand that social sustainability means that whatever transportation and infrastructure system we are building, we have to make sure that all of the resident dwellers are getting the benefit from that. Especially as a third world country, we have to concentrate on incorporating women and poor. Those are almost 80 to 90% of total population in our city. That will definitely help us to alleviate poverty. Economic sustainability means that we have to respond to any kind of transportation infrastructure development very efficient way. In the sense that we have to have the very efficient cost economic strategy we have to follow. If we make any mistake and invest billions of dollars, since transportation is a very expensive things to do, and if we do any mistake, we have to pay big price. Environmental sustainability, Dhaka, as all of you know, it's a very polluted city in the world, congested. So we have to make sure that we are not polluting our air and not creating any unhealthy environment as a result of our action. So that should be livable and set up, must be ensured by developing transportation system. Let me give you a presentation outline. I will cover, in fact, all of the aspects of transportation from broader perspective, so that our decision makers understand what needs to be done. I will discuss first issue, the needs. Needs depends on at all levels. For example, needs require at the planning level, institutional level, infrastructure and management level. We have to also talk about funding and financing options, because without funding and financing, we can do nothing. We also have to have very good institutional settings, so we'll talk about the institutional issues, especially the technical resources and the tools that we will use to evaluate our options. Also, political and government commitments. Without government commitments, doesn't matter what we are presenting or whatever technical peoples recommend, it will never be implemented. So we have to make sure that our government is also committed to do sustainable development. Issues, all of you probably know much better than me what are those issues, and if we want a list, we can list maybe 100 items, but I cannot even finish identifying issues. Here I listed very few of them. It's just to show you what are the problems and what are the critical issues. We definitely do not have adequate roadway network. Our network is very poor. We don't have adequate footpaths, and we don't have continuous footpaths. We don't have public transportation services, adequate and not well defined. We never even think of providing bicycle paths that is non-motorized transportation and it's not polluting our air. We are one of the poorest country and most polluted country, but we never recognize non-motorized modes. We are using our roadway infrastructure for both non-motorized and motorized vehicles in the same roadway space that is significantly reducing our capacity, efficiency. Because of mixed use and their number, instead of providing 89,000 probably, the licensed rickshaws, almost 400,000 to 600,000 rickshaws are plying all over the city roads and occupying 70 to 75% of the roadway space. That is significantly blocking our limited roadway space. Social impacts and cost, as I mentioned earlier, congested and polluted, one of the most congested and polluted, and we are paying extremely high price of congestion and accidents. Demographic and socio-economic condition will give us some of the big picture that infrastructure for whom and who we are. 50% of our people live below poverty. It means that they cannot afford very expensive transportation system. Only 5% own the car. So it's not that if we are providing only for the car or the rich people to move, we cannot solve our transportation problem, and that will not be a sustainable transportation solution, and we cannot improve our poverty. Unemployment rate 23%. So these data will give us some idea of what needs to be done, as I will address in my next few slides. Okay, trip characteristics. If we see the weekday person trips, walk trip is 60%, rickshaws 19%, bus 10%, car only 3%, obviously only 5% own the auto, so you should have only 3%. But why 60% walk? Some of them definitely walking because that's the most cost economic transportation option for them, and some are walking because they have no other options. In that case, you are not improving the economic activity, in the sense that people are forced to walk because they don't have alternative transportation modes, like public transportation modes or other modes that they can probably afford. And from also bus trips, you can see that only 10% bus trips who don't have adequate public transportation infrastructure. Okay, what we need to develop, first thing what we have to do is the comprehensive transportation and land use planning. As I mentioned in my second slide, that we have to do the growth management. Transportation solution is not just only building infrastructure, because people are living there, they are generating trips, and you have to control their number as well. And you have to plan where you have to develop those housing or employment activity centers. We need comprehensive planning for whole region, not just the Dhaka city. As you know, there are 5 Purushabas around Dhaka city: Gazipur, Shabar, and Kadam Rasul, Narayanganj, and Tongi. Those are so close by that they are, in the near future, will integrate with Dhaka city, and it should be a bigger metropolitan area. So when we are thinking about transportation improvements at the very basic level, planning level, we have to think for the whole region, not just the Dhaka city. So in that case, first we have to identify what will be our major corridors, major regional corridors that will connect Dhaka city with other smaller cities and towns around the city. Then we have to develop infrastructure for Dhaka city, for all the corridors, and then we have to connect them, because you cannot provide from each origin to each destination a single mode that only provide one right service. So you have to connect very efficiently, in the sense that you have to link all those so that people can have seamless service. So you have to identify where we have to develop our intermodal transfer station, where we have to develop the transportation center. Some transportation center will be very big, where regional and local routes will integrate, and many routes could be there. We have to think how to accommodate all those modes in that transportation center. So we have to identify those. We have to plan for acquisition of lands, that's very expensive, and in the planning level we have to do all those. Identify major hubs, identify minor hubs, and also growth, smart growth, that we have to still encourage people to come, because we have to grow our economy, we have to develop our economy. Show you at a micro level, just the previous one, how that will operate within the community. For example, I just circled one of the community, how our transportation infrastructure will interconnect. You can see that there are major hubs identified and minor hubs. We have to develop integrated public transportation systems. There could be major routes, there could be minor routes, and we have to integrate them. And we have to integrate from our residential areas, from our neighborhoods, all those centers. How we can link those? We have to develop continuous walkway, continuous bikeway, and we can also allow rickshaws. Since rickshaw is a problem, if you are allowing rickshaws to occupy all of the roadway space, is a problem. But still, we have to keep rickshaw, because that's environmentally friendly mode. And rickshaws can also operate within a specific community where rickshaws' purpose will be to serve the community and feed the people from residential areas to those transportation centers, and from those transportation centers, people will travel anywhere within the city or region if we develop well-integrated infrastructure, public transportation infrastructure. And we can also develop, high-rise development in those major transfer stations. There could be residential unit, there could be business commercial units, and I'll talk more about that when we go to our funding slides. We have to also understand not just only well-defined public transportation systems that we have to develop and integrated non-motorized and mass transportation modes we have to provide. We have to also understand that we have to develop our infrastructure as well. In any metropolitan areas around the world, there are basically at least 4 different functional classes of roadways. That gives 2 different purposes, that serves 2 different purposes. One is the local access. You will provide local access from residential or other areas, and another one ensures mobility, that you can ride very quickly from any origins to any destinations. And local roads and collectors mainly serve for access and linking between mobility and the accessibility. And the minor arterials and the principal arterials allow us to move quickly. In those cases, those arterials we have to identify, and we have to ensure the design standard, that those are developed at that standard to ensure that those high speed can be maintained. For example, local roads and collectors could be residential neighborhood areas where we can develop those things, and we have to identify, from comprehensive plan, which corridors we will designate for the local roads, collector roads, minor arterials, and principal arterials. On local roads, we can allow to walk, biking, and also allow rickshaw to move around. But again, we have to make sure that we are not just providing at any level just one option to our users. We have to provide more than one options so that users can choose. Someone may be interested to save his time, someone interested to pay more, but I want to go quick. So we have to have all the options for all of our dwellers. For collectors, we can in collectors we can allow bikes, rickshaws, auto rickshaws, and minibus to operate on those roadways. And for in major arterials, we can allow auto rickshaws. This is just an example. We can add more modes. Minibus, auto, standard bus, BRT, LRT, depends on what we have at some specific point. Metro. And for the long trips, mostly regional trips, we can allow auto, BRT, LRT, metro, commuter rails to operate on those roadways. And as you can see on the top, usually less than 1 mile or shorter trips are made on local roads. Moderately long trips are made on collector roads, 1 to 4 miles, 4 to 10 miles. For example, long trips are made on minor arterials and greater than 10 miles, probably for the principal arterials. Again, we didn't practice probably management because we never invest to our infrastructure, so we didn't even go to that level. In all over the world, especially first world countries, they realize that by building infrastructure, you never can solve the problem, transportation problems alone. You will have always congestion. So you have to practice also management. How efficiently you manage your system, that will give you additional capacity, efficiency that you can utilize. There are 3 different areas that you can practice those managements: demand management, supply management, and land use and growth control. Demand management is that how efficiently you can use all the modes that you are maximizing their efficiency. And in the demand management also you can take some other actions that will spread your peak. Instead of peaking especially just in 1 hour, you are peaking in the first, let's say 3 or 4 hours. Let's say in the morning from 7 to 10 you are peaking, so you are spreading that. That way you can minimize or reduce the extent of congestion. In the supply management, how efficiently you can improve, minor things into structural improvements, other kinds of improvements like separate motorized and non-motorized mode that will give you another efficiency. You can also provide dedicated bus lanes that will give bus travelers, quicker ride, so they can probably switch from other modes to buses. You can improve the commuter lanes. You can improve roadway connectivity, especially in our city. We don't have very good east-west connection. So we have to see that how we can provide direct connection, that they don't need to detour and go around and create unnecessary longer trip. And we have to do the active traffic management. That could be any incident. If you are not taking care immediately, that will create big congestion for you. So you have to see that how efficiently we can manage those incidents, even work zone where you are improving roadways, how you can manage those, and even any event. For example, if you have a sports in any stadium, how you are managing those peoples in those areas that they don't screwed up whole area network. Land use and growth control, that is very important. As all of you know, that our natural growth in Dhaka city is very low. Who are they that means growing in this city? All of them are coming from rural areas because they don't have any economic activity there, and all of the economic activities are concentrating in the Dhaka city. So all of them from remote area is coming here. So you are encouraging them, and people will come, but you cannot afford that many peoples in the city. So you have to do the control, migration control by decentralizing government activities as well as private activities. All of the organizations must have some kind of offices or activities in other parts of the country, not just in the city. You can also think of any commercial or industrial developments that are scattered around the city, and those probably is creating congestion by relocating those. For example, ready-made garments industries, where a lot of work trips are generated, mainly poor women. They have no other options, so they work, and we don't have even very good footpaths. So we can see that if we are relocating, we can maybe ease, walkways. We can also think of freezing very large development. If we see that those developments will create bigger problem for our transportation systems and services. Funding options. Generally, funds, grants and loans comes from IDEA, World Bank, ADB, and many other from the central government. In our case, our government can give some funds to our city. Revenue funds all over the world, generally coming from directly related taxes directly related to transportation and other general taxes. For example, motor vehicle, fuel, property tax, all those, and some other new ideas. These are probably for us, but those ideas are already old in many developed countries. Tax increment financing is that you are developing or you are improving one of the corridor, and you have the right to create more taxes along those areas, all the properties, so that they can give you more taxes, and you can take those taxes to develop infrastructure. You can probably release bonds, and in the long run, by providing extra tax, you can generate the revenue and you can pay for those bonds. Local improvement district, again, more or less the same things. That means you can take a lump sum tax from all of the local dwellers, depending on who is getting what kind of benefit and at what level of benefit. And if you are providing the infrastructure, you can also generate some revenues from those taxes. And development impact fee, if anybody is building any high-rise buildings, you have to see how those is impacting our transportation systems and services, and you can charge kind of surcharge or any kind of fees that they must pay to improve those services and systems, like rehab organizations and their partners are building a lot of development, so we can take advantage of getting some money from them. Bonds, NRB, who we are that is living outside, we are interested to invest. If we can organize associations or link with governments, and we can trust them, those money will not be lost. So many people will probably invest, and you can utilize those resources, those money from those NRBs. transportation center development that I told you, multimodal center where you can develop infrastructure. Either government alone can do that or in a partnership with other local private entities. Another most important financing option is the public-private partnership. It's basically sharing the risks by both government agencies as well as private agencies, and that will help our government to take more actions if some other private organizations are funding it. There are basically two different forms of PPT. One, only private sector invest, government doesn't invest. Another one, both government and private sector invest. For example, that's called the joint venture. For example, you want to develop a light rail transit. So you have to get the land, you have to have big investment, and return is coming in the long run, and no private company will take any initiative to invest that large amount of money in such uncertain areas. So government can probably say that, okay, I will invest for your land and I will give you some other things. And while we see that, okay, I'm investing this and you just provide some other services, then they might interest. So that one option. And another one is called the build, own, operate, build, operate, transfer, build, transfer and operate. All are basically the same thing. In this case, only private sector invest. There are two different ways to take back their money. One is called the Sheraton. Depends on how many users are using, and you can provide, government can provide returns to the private investors depending on the users' usability, or they can directly charge to the users for their investment to get back. For successful PPT, you must have a very solid, adequate legislative framework, institutional capacity to handle those PPT programs that is new to us. Benefits of PPT enable government, as I told you, to undertake more projects without incurring any debt. Deliver projects sooner because private sector has more efficiency, and since they are investing, they will develop and build as early as possible. And user pay options is the very good options that who is using, he is paying. It means that you are spreading the contribution to this generation and the future generation. So who is paying, he is paying. That means this generation as well as the future generation. But one critical thing is private sector never incorporates the externalities like congestions and pollutions, all those things. Government has to create a very solid legislative rules so that they incorporate those things. Okay, critical institutional scale, we don't have scale resources, functional departments, we don't have methods, tools and guidelines and procedures, how we evaluate our infrastructure developments and how our decision makers will make decisions. We don't have good coordination and cooperation and transparency. At least we need 3 levels of agency developments: regional transportation and land use planning authority, for example. For our mass transit, we have to have the Metropolitan Transportation Agency that will franchise, for example, transit first regulates and monitor the performance of those services, integrate fare and schedules. We have to have a very strong traffic department that will provide day-to-day traffic services. Skill required, we need transit traffic, highway skills, we need policy analysts, we need general operations manager, transport economist, transport law and regulations expert, financial expert, and other. For example, we need traffic safety specialists, transportation and land use, modelers, planners, and GIS specialists. But we don't have institute those, produce those. So we have to make sure that we have to create those institute that will generate those experts that we can efficiently use. Otherwise, we will always dependent on foreigners, and they really want them. So we will depend on them. I recommend that we have to establish an interdisciplinary institute that will do the researches and also offer degree program that could be a full-length degree program or training courses to ensure that our people have that kind of capability to handle those challenges. Purpose, either full-length graduate program or short course, and research, that means they will advise our governments, they will prepare the standard tools, methods, and best practices. They will also collaborate with NRB and other international agencies, and we will conduct conferences to fill any research gap we have in critical areas. Government can finance, and project-based finance also possible from government and non-government agencies, depends on what projects you are doing. International agencies also can finance from that purpose. And today, as we see, for any transportation developments, we need different groups to get together and communicate each other. For example, decision makers, they will make the decisions. Citizens or users, they know what is their problem. And technical experts, they know how to evaluate and which one will be our best options, they will find it. But if we are not meeting all three together and interacting each other, we never can solve the problem. So today, we have the decision makers here, we have technical experts, we have citizens, all three groups united. And I believe that for the first time in the country's history, that we are sitting in a formal meeting and where we have all three different areas peoples together. And that was possible only because of Mr. E Chowdhury Shameem's visionary plan to integrate, to take action so that we can sit together and understand and discuss the problems. I would like to thank E Chowdhury, his all advisors, Scholar Bangladesh teams for their efforts to organize such a timely and visionary program. I would also like to thank you all for listening.
Now we'll be spending 5 to 7 minutes for direct question to the speaker who just finished this. So let's see how many speakers are there. There's how many questions likely. Oh my God. So let's start, but very quickly the question.
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Why PRT?
But just a second. You introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I am
so that we
engineer. I am engineer Shafiqul Alam. We are working for underground mass transit in Dhaka, Dhaka Metro Rail, for establishment of underground metro rail in Dhaka city, Contact Limited. I want to ask you, why BRT in a city like Dhaka, bus rapid transit, and also I want to ask you, why LRT in Dhaka? And once again, I want to ask you how you calculated that 60% of city dwellers are walking through footpath, and already we have seen such kind of project by World Bank, unnecessary project, widening of footpath in Dhaka city, and that has already wasted a lot of money and already created huge congestion in Dhaka after creating Mahakali flyover and also Kilgore flyover. How would you solve this?
Okay, so let's get the questions first and then Dr. Shoaib will answer them together, because if you get into one question, then others will not want to ask the questions. So next question, okay.
Good morning everyone. My name is Dr. Mahabubul Bari. I am Senior Assistant Manager, Transport for London, England. I have got a number of conflicting views about city development from you. One of them, why do you support the non-motorized transport ban in city? Because it's directly go against the concept of sustainable development. And from where do you get the data that non-motorized transport is creating congestion? There is no scientific basis of that. Another, if we ban non-motorized transport, you are trying to promote short trip. Is it consistent with your smart development? And you are in your smart development, we started with that you are trying to create equity and service for the women, but banning non-motorized transport is doing exactly the opposite. It is definitely against non-motorized transport ban. And from DUTB study, it's clear that banning non-motorized transport is actually increasing congestion rather than reducing it. And your data, you provided that rickshaw are occupying 70% of the road. That's totally baseless. From where did you get this data from? Thank you.
Okay, next. Okay, and then on this side, let's get digital one. Okay. And then we come back to this side again. Please.
My name is Manan Mrida, a professor of biomedical engineering in Stockholm.
Please.
I live in a city which is least polluted. I've been there for 33 years. Your work is a good theoretical piece of work, nothing applicable for Bangladesh.
Right. Absolutely.
You haven't addressed very briefly, not even briefly, why we have this problem. Our officers when retired, they get their plots in Dhaka city. Military officers, secretaries, everybody. Why? Swedish Prime Minister retired, he moved to the village, built his network there. We don't need them here. Why they are staying here? Because there is no hospitals. 7% of people are above 60, and that number is increasing. We have to make good hospitals. Dr. Kibriya died in Sylhet because there was no hospital for blood transfusion. We need to make a sustainable progress only through building good hospitals in the cities, good schools. 3% of Bangladesh children go to universities, higher education. In Europe, they are planning 50%. How can you have 50% in Bangladesh all coming to Dhaka? It's not possible. We need to decentralize. We need to move universities. We have 50 universities in Banani. How can you solve your problems? No theoretical, complex, non-linear dynamic equations can solve that equation. We have to decentralize. We have to improve our schools, education systems in the villages where 70% or 80% live. We need to improve our hospitals, and that will automatically solve the equations because that will create jobs, people will live there. We don't need all military officers in DOHs or secretaries in Uttara. Build hospitals in the villages, build schools in the villages, only then your definition of sustainable environment or sustainable cities condition will improve. I studied air pollution in Dhaka city, and Sheraton is the most...
Because of time limitation.
Yes, but Sheraton was the most polluted area because of rickshaw was prohibited and two-cylinder baby taxi was had. Thank you very much.
আমি নাসির খান, চেয়ারম্যান পরিবেশ বাঁচাও আন্দোলন। আমি কিছু ইনফরমেশন দেওয়ার জন্য এখানে ডক্টর মাহবুব সাহেব আছেন, সেক্রেটারি কমিউনিকেশনস। আপনারা জানেন ঢাকা সিটির জন্য স্ট্র্যাটেজিক ট্রান্সপোর্ট প্ল্যান অনুমোদন হয়ে গেছিল 36,000 কোটি টাকার, যেটা হলে একটা ডিজাস্টার হয়ে যেত। কিন্তু ফরচুনেটলি পরিবেশ বাঁচাও আন্দোলনের নেতৃত্বে অনেকেই আন্দোলন করার ফলে এবং ডক্টর মাহবুব সাহেবের মতো সেক্রেটারি থাকার কারণে এইটা আবার রিভিউ করা হচ্ছে। যে স্ট্র্যাটেজিক ট্রান্সপোর্ট প্ল্যানে বলা হয়েছিল পেডেস্ট্রিয়ান ফার্স্ট পলিসি, অথচ পেডেস্ট্রিয়ান ফার্স্ট পলিসির জন্য 0.2% টাকা রাখা হয়েছিল এবং মূলত কার কেন্দ্রিক একটা ট্রান্সপোর্ট সিস্টেম হয়েছিল, সেটা আমাদের আন্দোলনের ফলে স্থগিত হয়েছে। এবং আপনি যে কথাগুলো বলেছেন মাননীয় স্পিকার সাহেব, অনেকগুলো খুব সুন্দর সুন্দর কথা হয়েছে, কিন্তু আবার সেলফ কন্ট্রাক্টরি যেটা মাহবুব সাহেব করেছেন, আমি একটু ডক্টর মাহবুব সাহেবের দৃষ্টি আকর্ষণ করব। এই স্ট্র্যাটেজিক ট্রান্সপোর্ট প্ল্যানের কী অবস্থাটা লেগেছে সেটা একটু জানা। 1, 2 নম্বর হলো আপাতত বাস বাড়তেছে, কিন্তু বাসের বাড়া নিয়ন্ত্রণহীনভাবে বাড়তেছে। এইটাকে কোনো আইনের, আমি ধরুন যারা অথরিটি তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করছিলাম, বাস ভাড়া কী নিয়মের ভিত্তিতে হচ্ছে সেই নিয়মটাও পর্যন্ত বলতে পারতেছে না। পার কিলোমিটার তারা বলতেছে পার কিলোমিটার 80 পয়সা বা 90 পয়সা, কিন্তু কোনো বাসই 80-90 পয়সা যায় না, 2-1টা ছাড়া। এই বিষয়গুলো যদি ডক্টর মাহবুব সাহেব অ্যাড্রেস করেন তাহলে খুব খুশি হব। থ্যাংক ইউ।
In fact, I give you the broader picture of transportation problems and solution strategies, but some of the questions comes at a very micro level that is not possible to answer in this kind of sessions. But I'll be glad to discuss all those if you are interested after the program. And all of the questions that asked or were consistent with what I proposed, but maybe you didn't understand properly. For example, few of the things that I want to address, although I cannot answer again for all of your questions that requires very micro level and debate and analysis. For example, non-motorized transportation modes, I'm just coming first there. I just told to allow non-motorized modes where feasible. It's not mean that you will allow them all over the city. It means that where non-motorized modes can serve better, you have to do that. That means you need very micro level study. It's not you can answer right away here. So it's big things. Second thing, BRT, LRT. Of course, when you will do BRT or LRT, you have to see the ridership and the capacity of those modes. You have to see the how much you are paying for those infrastructure and are those cost economical. that needs a very long study. Engineers will usually do at a very micro level situation. So those details is not also possible, but I want to give you some of the few ideas so that you understand. That means demand, where those modes is feasible to operate. Do we have available lands? Do we have the capacity to build those? All those issues will come. And I'll be glad to discuss in details again who ask these questions at a very micro level. Okay. Decentralization. If you carefully listen to my slides, although I went very fast because of time limitations, I focused on those. I clearly says that demand management, supply management, growth management. And I also addressed that migrants are creating, of course, problem because they are coming from rural areas. And we have to decentralize this, which includes also private universities and all other things that you mentioned. So I clearly addressed that. Again, I didn't go at a micro level. If you go micro level, I give you the bigger picture of our systems from all different angles. There could be 50 presentations from my presentation that I can go if I want to go to that micro level. I'll be glad to answer all those again if you are interested to discuss after the presentation. Building flyovers here and there. Again, you have to understand that when someone is building, did he analyze properly whether it is economical, and if it is economical and productive, how? I don't know that. I didn't see that. And usually in third world countries, all the process goes in a very rush, sometimes for government credibility, without even doing any kind of feasibility study or comprehensive analysis. This option is best or not, we just build it. So I don't want to argue with that without knowing that, but I can just tell you that building infrastructure will not be our first option. We have to develop good integrated public transportation systems. From that point of view, if you say, yeah, those are not a good options. But again, since I don't know in details what those are, I cannot just criticize those. But one of the big problems that I have seen in the flyover, Mohakali flyover, that you are providing a smooth capacity, efficiency by building a long corridor where you have no intersection. But where you are ending at the intersection, somewhere near farm gate. That's the bottleneck. That's the critical points of your whole investment. Did you analyze that? You didn't. You made a big mistake. Because when people are coming in the morning rush hour, they are ending up at the intersection, and that's your whole corridor capacity. You never considered that. I'm just giving you some of the ideas. And there are turning points near Mohakali railway. Another bottleneck is there. When you have continuous roadway, if it's a straight roadway, capacity is very high. When you are turning, you have to reduce the speed and capacity will reduce there. Did you consider that capacity as a bottleneck? Then why you have to invest too much money for long corridor that is not serving in some critical areas, and those are dictating what you can serve from those investments. I'm really sorry if I did not address all of your questions. Feel free to discuss after the presentation.
Answer on that, what is your database for the 60% people?
Very good. Remind. Well, very interesting thing. If you want to do any research regarding Dhaka city, you will have millions of data in the internet and here and there. But if you go to any government agencies, our government doesn't provide or never even care for those data, which is very vital for any decision making. That's the fundamental thing that you have to develop first before you talk. We don't have. When I go to the internet, I see millions of people are providing data here and there. I don't know which one is right. Someone is saying 2% what? Someone is saying 100% what? What you will do? So I just did my fair assessment based on my knowledge, based on all those data, and I just thought that that could be probably ideal representation. If it is not today, of course it may not be, because let's say paper was established, published in 2000, and at that time you had non-motorized modes all over the city. Just for an example, in that case maybe occupied 70%. Now since you removed non-motorized modes from some of the roadways, now probably they are not. So those are the things that we have a data game. Very good that you raised those questions. So I just did my fair assessment, and I want to address also, since you raised the very good questions, our government must focus to develop data. For any decision making, especially billions of dollars investment, data is the first thing that you have to develop.
Thank you very much. Habib Shaheen Tarabda, and he is also a Buet graduate, and he did his civil engineering from Buet in 1988. Then he did his master's abroad, and he has been working as the chief engineer in Washington State, and also chief engineer in Rockford. And at the moment, he is the assistant vice president of Marsh McLennan. He is a financing company, but he is expert working on the transportation side. So would like to welcome Mr. Tarabda and request him to make his presentation. Thank you, Mr. Tarabda.
Thank you for a nice introduction. It's really a great honor for me to be here in front of all the scholars and experts, and among my fellow citizens and NRBs. I would like also thank Mr. Shameem Chowdhury for initiating such a great visionary trend. I hope it will keep going for years. So as he said, I was a city engineer at the very early stage of my life, and I took great pleasure in serving people. And one thing that I would say, the most important component for success of any public project is the passion for serving people. No matter how much budget we have, it doesn't matter how many expertise we have, it does not matter how much knowledge we have, unless the people who are executing those projects, their most sincere desire is to serve people. No public project will ever be successful. And I had a great mentor at the very early stage of my life when I started as a city engineer in Washington, Ohio. By the way, I want to make the correction. It's not Washington State, it's a suburban city of Columbus, which is capital city of Ohio. That's where I started my career, and my mentor was the mayor who I directly reported to, and he was a person who always wanted to serve people, and together we made a great team. Primarily, I wanted to talk about privatization in general. Then, when I spoke to some of my friends who are professors in Buet, and I found out some recent development, especially the February flyover, which has been halted, and I want to congratulate the current administration for having that kind of knowledge and expertise to halt it in time and avoid a great loss. And when I heard that story, and I thought actually what I should address, what I should focus on, is the danger of bad privatization deal. And that's what we really need to know. As a matter of fact, we can learn from the mistake of others. It's a great business deal if you learn from others' mistakes and you save your own money. So that's what I'll be addressing. It's a very non-technical presentation. And as a matter of fact, I have been away from technical field for about 8 years. I was a city engineer till 1998. After that, I took a position in a financial company. So it's a very broad picture of focusing on bad privatization deals and how to avoid them. So as you all know, there has been a tremendous change as a matter of fact, a very dramatic growth in traffic pattern and transportation system in our country. Basically, our GDP has increased, people are more affluent, they can afford private cars nowadays a lot more than before. And this situation clearly calls for an efficient and effective road system. The need to increase road capacities as well as to improve traffic flow. My previous speaker actually did go through it very well. However, so I'm going to really browse through the first few slides. With limited public sector resources, the government has an option of adopting a new approach to privatization. As a matter of fact, every time I say privatization, it should be more like private-public partnership. Even now, a government construction project has some privatization in it. Usually we bid out the construction. So that part is being built by a private company. We don't build everything ourselves. So it's like expanding that partnership. But I'm going to be using the term privatization, but we should not be thinking that we're giving away the government property to the public, private companies. It's more like a partnership. So the government has an option of adopting a new approach through privatization by encouraging the private sector to be actively involved in the development of road and highway projects. And so this is what happens usually when an investor comes and they approaches politicians or elected officials, I would say, and come up with a project, and usually they're thrilled. Now they can have a structure for free, and they can look good to the people. They can, it will look good politically, and that's when the danger starts, without rushing in such projects, and that's when you need to really be careful. So it's a growing trend in mostly developing countries, in East Asia, in Latin America, in our part of the world. Malaysia has been very aggressive in adopting privatization of roadways. Today there are 25 toll road projects of approximately 1,800 kilometers in length in Malaysia. According to World Bank records, infrastructure privatization in developing countries has reached a peak of over 110 billion per year in 1997 and 1998. The reason is very obvious. It's because of lack of access for long-term capital for developing countries, and it provides an immediate access to capital, and you're basically getting a structure for free. Even in the United States, a very wealthy country, one of the very wealthiest countries in the world, privatization is also a growing trend. During 2007, 16 states in the US had some privatized road projects formally proposed or underway. Between 1994 and early 2006, 21 billion was paid for 43 highway facilities in the US. You might ask, why US? They don't have a problem with money. Well, they do. Because of budget deficit, due to rising cost of health, pension, energy, construction. And the deal is a little different in the US. They don't give away projects to build. They usually lease already built projects. What that gives them is immediate access of cash. For instance, Chicago Skyway, which is 7.8 miles long, they sold the lease to a actually foreign company for $1.8 billion for 99 years of lease. So immediately the city administrator have $1.8 billion in their hand to close the budget deficit gap. So that's a driving factor in the US. So let's find out, what is driving the current privatization trend? Do these deals benefit or harm long-term public interest? How can the public best be protected? What is driving the trend? Lack of access to long-term capital, like I said, in developing countries. In the context of huge investment need and revenue shortfall, if paid for, which is free, infrastructure has obviously short-term appeal. Political benefit, and that's the what usually I'm very afraid of in developing countries. Privatization offers tremendous political benefit to elected officials by bringing a relatively quicker solution, which is most of the time very popular. Pressure from investor. Privatization is a great deal for investors because it's very secure and it's a long-term benefit. Compared to stock and other investments, a privatized toll road is relatively secure long-term revenue generator. It usually is very highly paid. Payback is very high. Demand by general public. These are the users of the transportation system and often lack the comprehensive vision of solution. Usually, like you are a parliament member or your people from constituencies coming to you and saying, we need a solution to this Jatrabari or this congestion, please build a flyover, not knowing a flyover might not be the solution. And the elected official from that part is pushing for it. Basically, the third-party experts are the one who we should rely on for these such projects. In the US, there's a vast amount of private money waiting to toll road investment. Wall Street sees it a very good deal. The private infrastructure funds dedicated to the investment in public structure has grew from 5 billion to 45 billion from year 2004 to 2007. Benefits of privatization, it's needless to say, I'm just going to go very quick through this. Reducing the financial burden of the government, growth in economy by reducing transportation time and operating costs to the consumers, increased level of comfort in driving by reducing traffic congestion and pollution, increased efficiency of privatized entities, manufacturing activities for construction-based industries. So that is why it is very appealing to both public and politicians and elected officials to go for such a deal. So what are the dangers? Let's go through the bad news first. And some of those information that came up here was learned, was expensive mistakes that was made by other countries or some states in the United States, and they learned from this, and we could use that. No matter how good the deal looks, actually the economy and the governance of a privatized deal is very problematic, and it requires a tremendous amount of scrutiny and review by experts before you go for it, and never should be rushed through. One of the things, there is a proverb I heard a long time ago, I don't know how true that is. It says, a slight air wave made by a butterfly in South America might cause a wind change in Pacific Ocean. I don't know how true that is, but it is true for, it might be close to true for roadway, because usually you are privatizing a tiny segment of a huge network, and a change in that network, this tiny segment of a privatization, may cause negative effect on the rest of the network, that road network, that is unnecessary. Basically, the private owners or operators, when I say that, I mean the people who we lease out to or people who are building it for us, they want the rest of the network to be congested so that everybody uses that toll road. And that is we have to look for that. So, event takes place on one road affects all connecting and alternate route. Operating method of a privatized road may have great impact on an entire jurisdiction, like I said. A private operator's profit motive may lead to very different management decisions than a government would pursue. Basically, that makes sense, they just want their money back, many times over. So, little more detail of those loss of public control. Number one, non-compete clauses. We should watch for it very clearly. And most of the time, most of the privatization deals have those non-compete clauses. I know that one of the deal in Colorado actually had in their contract that the nearby local road have to add traffic lights so that it slows their traffic in the local roads everybody uses a toll road. So, and what I heard about the very recently temporarily stopped Jathrabari flyover, there were similar clauses in there. I have not seen the contract myself, but don't quote me on this, but that's what I heard. So most privatization contracts explicitly limits the government's ability to improve or expand roads, usually in the nearby, in the neighborhood. It hinders the government's ability to conduct effective transportation policy. Most of the time, like 10 years down the road, if the government decides they have to make a modification to their transportation policy, if they have one, I don't think most of our urban areas even have a long-term transportation policy. If they come up with a new one or make a modification, the privatized section usually are not obligated to conform with that policy. They don't have to. You listed for 25 years or 99 years. And then, all of a sudden, a segment of the whole network is out of the policy, and which may have adverse effect on the entire network. How I wrote this slide, just to let you know how important is that. Effective transportation policy determines level of traffic congestion, air pollution, safety and quality of the road. This is just a reminder, we all know of this. So all of this could be affected by the privatization not conforming with the transportation policy. Private toll decisions. So let's say 100 vehicle is going through a toll road, and the owner calculates that if they triple it, double the toll, they're going to lose some people, they're not going to come. Let's say they will lose 30%. but 70% people will be still using it, even if you double the toll or make it significantly higher. They would make the calculation that way, not necessarily serving the people. So then 30%, this is just a hypothetical figure, so 30% vehicle are not going to toll road because the toll height, the toll is raised. What will happen? They will then clog the other roads. They will come overflow to the local roads. Increased air pollution, unhappy motorists, both who are paying the high toll or both who are avoiding it. They both will be very unhappy. So also, if you divert the trucks and buses, the heavy weight, they may deteriorate the local road by not using the toll road anymore because of the toll height. For a private operator, and no matter how bad it sounds, the traffic congestion and pollution in local roads may actually be desirable. And that also, listening to the plan of the recently stopped Chhatrabari flyover, it did have some of those clauses that made it look like that they want that the rest of the network close to the flyover be congested. Inability to guarantee a state-of-the-art technology. So let's say we cannot foresee what's coming, what the technology will bring to us 20 years down the road. If there is the innovation of a very highly effective safety device, again, the privatized section are not obligated to install those. It may cost them money, so the government might have to pay extra to compensate them for the construction or to operate those. So it may not necessarily guarantee that the people who will be using the toll road will have the best technology available to them. Excessively long contract, and this is this is the one really to avoid for a few things. One is that it's very hard to foresee the changes and that will happen in the distribution of population in metropolitan areas, or the mode of transportation, or the energy that will be available 10 years down the road. Maybe we'll run out of CNG and we have to have a electric train. And then there's to fly over that, what can you do? They're not gonna destroy it for you, they're not gonna make way because they have 99 years of lease. So another thing is, if the contract is very excessively long, it cannot make the elected official held accountable anymore because they already retired. Elected officials' political life might be 10 to 15 years. After that, originally the people who started it, they are not in office anymore. Lack of transparency, accountability, those also might create problem, and the way to solve this is public hearing. Anytime we should start, government decides to start a privatization deal, there should be public hearing, people should be involved. Full disclosure should be, potential terms should be available, and any related contract and subcontract which might cause moving of existing infrastructure, those should be also very meticulously reviewed. So here's the protection. How do you protect from the bad privatization deal? The government must have a well-planned, long-term and comprehensive transportation policy in place before commencement of any privatization deal. We should not look for any deal, no matter how sweet that sounds, unless we have a comprehensive plan already in place, which must be long-term, not a short-term policy. The privatization contract must conform with such plan. Public control must be retained over decisions about transportation planning and management without penalty. Like if you want to make a change later on, we should not be penalized and pay compensation to the private owners. No deal should be over 25 years, or maybe less. Maybe less, nobody will probably ask for, accept less than 25 years, but that 25 to 30 years should be our standard contract period. There should be provision in the contract for state-of-the-art technology and maintenance of it. Complete transparency is necessary to ensure proper process. Third-party expertise should be involved. Full accountability of legislation. The legislation should not be just saying, okay, let's start a deal. They should also be involved in the finalization of the deal. That should be voted in by the legislature.
This actually I came up with it, and this is what happened. I have a friend who is a transportation specialist, and he lives here. And he's saying, no, I would rather wait 2 hours in traffic than giving away my money to a foreign company. And I said, wait, maybe there is a middle way. If we have somebody coming from a foreign company investing, maybe we can limit, we put a cap on their profit. Maybe we can, only this is how much you can profit. And so that's what I came up with, the cost, and then we allow a profit margin, and they divide it with the contract life, and that should be the maximum amount of money they can raise from toll. Just an idea or suggestion. Also, we should encourage investment from local investors. Thank you. Actually, I'm at the very end of my presentation. We should carefully scrutinize the viability of projects. Who will be paying for it, and will they really pay for it? I don't think if someone who makes very little money and coming from a village to Dhaka really cares for the extra time he's going to save by paying a toll. But it might mean a lot to commuter in Dhaka. Maybe Dhaka-Chittagong route is a very good route for toll road, but not Dhaka-Joshua. Maybe people in Joshua doesn't really care if it takes 2 extra hours. So those are the things that we have to look into. So to conclude, privatization of roadways can be greatly beneficial only when it is done right, which requires meticulous planning, cumbersome scrutiny, review by experts and public, and mostly a very sincere desire of serving the people. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torabdar, for a very interesting presentation. And the subject is of great interest to Bangladesh as well. You wanted to say something? Yes. Okay. So we'll now spend a few minutes on questions and answers to him directly on his presentation.
Transport Research Laboratory, UK, and I work in many countries from Far East to Europe. At present, I am working in India, National Highway Authority of India, and I work with the French company. Next month, I am going to work with Scott Wilson for a privatized road. It is not a question; it's a comment. And the privatized road, you said that it will hamper, the local traffic and all these, but we are building flyovers and bypasses in overhabitated areas. And so I do not think any problem with these privatized highways. I do not know whether you emphasize in city roads. City roads mostly not privatized. All privatized roads are coming in highways. And I really appreciate there is a project coming in Bangladesh, Dhaka, Chittagong, new road. And we don't have other small roads nearby, So I don't think there is any problem.
Sure, no, there is no problem if it is done properly.
Just a minute, sorry. We'll answer, please answer at the end. Let's have some more questions together. So this is a very pertinent question. It is actually some knowledge to share. So he has shared some knowledge from his own experience. Yes, now yes. You raise the question.
Mohammed Abdullah. I'm working with Circuit. So my finding is, presenter বলেছেন যে 25 years. Why don't you make it 10 years? So even you can make it 5 years, so that you have more flexible control on the private sector. And number 2 is, এখানে মনে হয় আজকের প্রেজেন্টেশনটা too early for today, because there is not a single mile or single kilometers of private road in Bangladesh. It's too early for today. That is my observation.
আমি ডাইরেক্টর বাংলাদেশ কনসালটেন্ট লিমিটেড এবং আমি ডেপুটি টিম লিডার স্ট্র্যাটেজিক ট্রান্সপোর্ট প্ল্যান ফর ঢাকা, যেটা তৈরি হয়েছে আর কি। তো আমি আজকের এই যে প্রসঙ্গটা উঠেছে প্রাইভেটাইজেশন, সেটা সম্পর্কে জাস্ট দুটো কমেন্ট করব। নাম্বার ওয়ান, প্লিজ, I will actually make 2 comments on this. Number one is actually private investment in highways and infrastructure, particularly the transport infrastructure. And number 2 is actually the doing it properly. Actually, we need investment, foreign investment, private investment in our manufacturing field more. As because we need creating lots of jobs for our people. in that sense, actually, we need private investment in actually industries mostly, and in power sector. Those are very crucial for development of industries and the nation as well. So actually, the problem for road infrastructure at the moment, just you identified only one corridor could be feasible for privatization. And so actually, we'll be trying for private investment in those fields, not in the infrastructure or road infrastructure especially. Number two is doing properly. You mentioned actually the Jatrawari flyover. It was done so hastily. Actually, one expert who is actually a very good contractor specialist international, he says that I was working in Lebanon for a private infrastructure there. So actually it took me 2 to 3 years to finalize the contract. So but actually one fine morning we saw this contract is negotiated and work is also done. So doing properly is the right thing actually for privatization. And you also mentioned several points which actually adversely affecting the private investment in the transport sector. So with this comments, thank you very much.
পরিবেশ বাঁচাও আন্দোলন আমরা সব অপরচুনিটিগুলো গ্রহণ করি জাতীয় স্বার্থে, এখানেও তাই। কারণ আমি দেখলাম যে মডারেটর সাহেবের একটু প্রাইভেট অর্গানাইজেশনদের প্রতি একটু রিলেশনটা একটু বেশি আছে এবং ওনাদের নেতৃত্বেই এসটিপি হয়েছিল ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি। সো আমি একটু কেয়ারফুল করে দিতে চাই যে জাতীয় স্বার্থে প্রাইভেটাইজ করার বাংলাদেশে কোয়াইট ডিফিকাল্ট, বিশেষ করে রুট সেক্টর। কারণ আমাদের বাংলাদেশে মাত্র কত হাজার স্কোয়ার কিলোমিটার আছে এবং সেখানে অলরেডি আপনি জানেন অলরেডি কনজাস্টেড। সেখানে একটু মাত্র রাস্তা বা অন্য কোনো কিছু করাটা কোয়াইট ডিফিকাল্ট। সেখানে সমস্তটাই জাতীয়ভাবে, যেহেতু রোড সেক্টরটা সমস্তটাই জাতীয়ভাবে হওয়া উচিত। অন্যভাবে হইলে এটা সাংঘাতিক মারাত্মক পরিণতি নিয়ে আসবে। এটা হলো এক। সেকেন্ডলি হচ্ছে যে আমাদের রাস্তা তৈরি করার সময় খুব কেয়ারফুল হতে হবে। কারণ আমাদের এখন 15 কোটি মানুষ, 25 কোটি মানুষ হবে। সুতরাং কার বেসড যে সমস্ত চিন্তাভাবনাগুলা সমস্তগুলোই আমাদের বাদ দিতে হবে। কারণ কার বেসড যদি আমরা চিন্তা করি তাহলে কিন্তু আমরা মারা পড়ব। আমাদের চিন্তা করতে হবে অনেকটা সিঙ্গাপুরি মডেলের মতো। কারণ আপনারা জানেন যে 15 কোটি মানুষ এবং 25 কোটি বা 30 কোটি মানুষ হবে। 30 কোটি মানুষের আপনার আমেরিকাতে পার পার্সন 1.2 কার, সেই হিসাবে 1.2 না, যদি 50% মানুষের গাড়ি থাকে তাহলে প্রায় 15 কোটি গাড়ি হবে। এই 15 কোটি গাড়ি কি সম্ভব? নো। সুতরাং আজকে থেকে চিন্তা বাদ দিতে হবে যাতে কোনো ক্রমেই গাড়ির জন্য রাস্তা নয়, এবং গাড়ির জন্য যদি রাস্তা না করতে হয়, শুধু আমি প্রাইভেট কারের কথা বলছি, শুধু মাস ট্রানজিট সিস্টেম বা ওই নৌপথ, রেলওয়ে এবং বড় বড় বাস এগুলোর দিকে চিন্তা করে সেইভাবেই আমাদের চিন্তা করতে হবে এবং সেটা কোনোভাবেই প্রাইভেটাইজেশন না। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Consistency movement is scope 9, using the same corridor, same right of way. I'll come back to it later. Then we shall have to know more before we really have an opinion. We shall have to know more what is happening elsewhere in the region, elsewhere in the world. And can you take some message from there? I'll share that at the end when I have my turn. Thank you. Now, is there any other question? No other question. Okay, then we would like to ask you to kindly respond to the queries.
Basically, most of them are comments, so I will comment back, and I'll be very brief. As far as first comment, why not 5 to 10 years? Usually 5 to 10 years is not long enough to recoup the investment for an investor. That's why we have to go longer. Otherwise the toll rate will be extremely high if I want to give them all the money back in 5 years. So that is why we need a little longer time. But of course, yeah, if you could draw a contract as short as possible, that's the best. Too early for today, I beg to differ with that, because we already started thinking about private involvement, private-public partnership. A project was, someone say, almost was being finalized, and it was on time stopped temporarily to modify it. So we already in the process. We already started the thinking. It's already started in our country, mostly in metropolitan Dhaka. we need foreign investment true for, that is the best option if you can have them invest such a way that creates jobs. But the only reason we're looking into foreign investment is if there is an improvement that we need right away, but we don't have the money. Only then we should look into foreign investment. If we do have the money locally, I agree with you. We should never look into foreign investment for infrastructure privatization or private-public partnership. Jatrabari was done hastily. Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. It was done within a very short period of time, and that is why it was stopped. I'm very thankful to many experts for that. Highway, yes, I agree with you. Highway privatization works best in most of the countries. In our country, we're thinking most of the problem is in metropolitan areas, and people in metropolitan areas in our country can afford a toll most of the time. That's why. I am not saying it creates problem. What I'm saying is, unless we scrutinize, we really review the contract, and we don't watch for the profit motive of the investors, it might create a huge problem that we'll have no way to recover if it is too late. But if it is done properly, no, it will not create problem. Actually, it will alleviate problem. So I believe that should answer all the comments. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the thank you to the organizers, and thank you, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Tawakar, for your presentation as well as answers to the questions. Now, we will request now our panelist, Dr. Abu Raja, to make some comments on both the presentation, generally, about 5 to 7 minutes, and or within 10 minutes. And then from there onwards, we move to our guest, special guest here.
Assalamu alaikum. Please forgive me for my bad throat this morning. First of all, Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Rahmatullah, my friend for a long time, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I spent almost a quarter of a century in the financial institutions between the World Bank and the Islamic Development Bank, and now I'm working in Afghanistan in the Ministry of Finance, advising on formulation of development budget. Now, happily I must confess that I'm rather impressed with the presentation made by my young colleagues, and happily, of course, I have been robbed of my own points, so I can be very brief. I'm particularly impressed by the presentation of Mr. Shoaib, and I congratulate him as a young man. He has articulated very clearly and forcefully on the issues of transportation, particularly affecting Dhaka city. Now, of my own points, while coming here in a very hasty way, I wrote few things, and I would like to present this to Dr. Rahmatullah later on. But the first and foremost, I must confess, surprised to read the report of the Strategic Transport Plan, which is a recent report, and they estimate this population will go to 20 million by next 20 years. In my opinion, this is an entirely unacceptable situation. If we want to have a capital of an independent country and a functional capital, the first important thing is to see that is development taking place all over the country equitably. Today, I think there is significant imbalance in our growth as between Dhaka and the divisional headquarters and the district headquarters. So what I would suggest, the first solution to Dhaka's congestion problem is to seek policy options whereby we can transfer resources outside Dhaka and provide services like health, education, trade and commerce, and other facilities, administrative facilities outside Dhaka. And to this end, there has to be a radical policy decision. And I feel confident that the current government is in a position to do that. What is important is to leave behind a constructive and thought-provoking policy measures which will affect all of the country, not merely Dhaka's problems. Secondly, I would think there is a need for decentralization, and my colleague has mentioned that. There is absolutely no need for that matter, for all the ministries to be in Dhaka. For instance, I cannot conceive of Ministry of Agriculture have to be in Dhaka. For instance, this can be transferred to Manipur. Or the other ministries, or the parastatal organization headquarters can also be shifted from Dhaka. So in other words, Dhaka's population has to be measured in relation to the size of Dhaka. But because we have to admit, unlike the city of Delhi, unlike the city of Karachi, unlike the city of Tehran, Dhaka has certain basic limitations. It is surrounded by rivers or water bodies. Having recognized that, our experts will have to tell us optimally how many people we can accommodate in a proper way in the capital of an independent country. Now to that end, this would require a very radical policy decision. And I feel, as I said earlier, the current government can do that. Now, in other words, in order to solve the problem of Dhaka, I would suggest the attention should be set outside Dhaka. Now, within Dhaka, of course, we have measures, and our experts, engineering experts, have said that issues of pricing of road space. Now, in relation to total population and total population of cars, there may not be many cars. But on the other hand, if you see the road space available in Dhaka and the number of cars and the way they are parked throughout the day, all around Mosque Hill, without having to pay anybody, it is inconceivable that this situation can continue. To give you a very crude example, a 1 kata of land, I am told, in Gulshan costs 1 crore rupees. So what is the cost of the road space? And who owns this road space? Now there has to be ownership clearly defined, and therefore prices has to be set to make use of the car. Again, on the radical side, I would suggest that there should be no parking city of Dhaka. There is nowhere people can park. You can take your car downtown to leave somebody, drop somebody off, or pick somebody up. But there is no means that you can park the car. Then somebody trying to go to downtown will think twice whether to take his car or take the bus. So this is the kind of thoughts we must entertain and begin to reflect as what should be done ideally. I was coming through Delhi and I was just read through a document which said that in terms of pollution, Delhi's, and particularly in terms of injuries to health, we all know the smoking is injurious to health. Now the statistics they are giving that in Delhi it amounts to 26 cigarettes somebody is smoking a day. Now if that is the case of Delhi, I'm sure some of you have seen Delhi recently. The vast city has expanded all around. I suspect in Dhaka we are smoking about 40 cigarettes a day, at least, if not more. And therefore, this congestion that is going on is inflicting serious injuries to all of us, which we cannot conceive properly, and therefore, the decisions we now need to take would look radical, but this must be taken. And therefore, I will not go into the details of pricing, and my engineering colleagues will tell us how precisely to go about it and restrain ourselves using the road space which does not belong to me. And I'm inflicting injury on the rest of the community. Now, it struck to me while I came round to Dhaka this time, I took chance, there was a couple of days, but since I live in the older part of Dhaka, I could easily have access to IWTA, to the railways, to the Dhaka City Corporation, and I had very good meetings with some of the very good experts in these institutions, and had very frank discussion with them about the difficult situations. Now, it has been brought to my attention of two things. One, that recently there was a study, or rather project, implemented by the World Bank called Dhaka Urban Transport Project. The total cost of this project was 234 million. Of that, the World Bank spent 140 million and abandoned this, in effectively speaking. Now this they have done. I was reading the completion reports of this project, which you can also download from the internet. And it says, blaming roundly all the institutions that we all have in Dhaka or in Bangladesh, like City Corporation, DTCB, PIU of the specific project and so on. And I was surprised, institutions like the World Bank, while appraising the project, one of the important things they should have done, they should have appraised the executing agency, whether or not they're capable of implementing this project successfully. If not, there had to be remedial measures as how best to strengthen these institutions before they embark upon implementing the project. And they are themselves saying this project was moderately satisfactory. Now, this is a very serious indictment on the performance of institutions about which most of us do not know very well. But some of us have some ideas of these institutions who do not do very well these days. Why? I do not know. We need to ask them, we need to ask ourselves. Now, unfortunately, it was not very well prepared project, because preparation of a project for the World Bank takes a very long time. They take 3 years sometimes. But this was very hastily done and very badly executed. They spent about 140 million or 177 million given under IDA credit, which is soft money, and we were not able to utilize all of it. And then, having not completed the project, having not met all the objectives it had, it recommended for a study, and that study called Strategic Transport Plan. Now, all these 25 years that I was saying, I worked in the development finance institutions, and I always continue to review the documents that are prepared by the consultants. I have not seen the terms of reference. It was not included in the main body of the report, and I did not have access to all the parts of the report. There are many, many volumes and so on, but the City Corporation was very kind to allow me to read the main document of the report. Now, the difficult part of this is a strategic document for the transportation plan. It is relevant for about 20 years. However, it does not give the basis of the cost estimate that it indicates. There is no cost configuration. If you go into the details, I do not see either on the recommendation part or on the executive summary or on the body of the report. Secondly, my impression is the local consultants which were hired to work with this Louis Arthur company, Louis Barter company, bulk of the work was done by the BCA. This is my impression. I've read some parts of it, and I feel that proper job was not done in terms of particularly the Louis Barter's inputs. Now, the difficulty that I have said earlier, we do not know the basis of this cost. The full cost breakdown I do not see. What's more disturbing for me, that since I am an economist, I would like to see the benefit stream also. There is nowhere it speaks about that cost-benefit ratio. I do not see anywhere the internal rate of return. Now, while I go from this option to that option and to the other option, I would like to be informed about the rates of return to the investment, because we're talking about precious money to invest it. And therefore, I would like to be educated on the returns to investment on various options. That is not there. I would like to know more from the macroeconomic side, the opportunity cost of the capital, that is not there. And therefore, I feel there is a lot of significant work to be done on this project, on this strategic transport plan that has been prepared. And there are some ardent issues on which I have put my thoughts into writing, and I've given a copy to the chief guest, and I would like to present this also to Dr. Rahmatullah, who is a transportation czar in the country today, with a wealth of experience, wealth of knowledge. I'm sure we ourselves can have a full review and make a fresh assessment as to what we need to do. And my own suggestion is, given the government that we have in power today, we take full advantage of the leadership at the present time. Because once the politicians take over, my suspicion is they will take very long time to take decisions. On the other hand, the issues of Dhaka congestion is a burning issue. It cannot really wait until tomorrow. And in this regard, any humble contribution that I can make, I will be humbly very proud to participate in any discussions or any review that needs to be done together with my colleagues who are more learned and from whom I would also like to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abu Raza, for sharing your thoughts on the relevant issues that were raised in the floor. And now we have three very distinguished persons among us here, other than our chief guest and the special guest. They are the Chief Engineer of Roads and Highways, Mr. Mahmoud Rahman, Chief Engineer of Shahidul Hassan. They are all both serving Chief Engineers. And one retired secretary who has been many years in the Transport Communication Ministry is Khaza Ghulam Ahmed. He is the former secretary. So both three of them are sitting in the front row here. I'd like to request if you would like to take the floor to share some of your thoughts on the issues that have been raised in the floor.
The chief guest, other guests, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I thank our moderator to give me a chance to say something here, and I feel honored for it. But at the same time, I'm sorry to say, since I am not well prepared, I am not naturally, whatever I like to say may not be in a very concise and very concrete way. What I am thinking, maybe in some other way, is consider things. Now, already told, for this solution, we cannot wait for tomorrow. The issue is so burning nowadays. And regarding the congestion, there is a more or less two types of vehicles. One is not motorized, one is motorized. In the Dhaka city, there is a general saying like that. In a city, there are no non-motorized vehicles, solo-type vehicles. We cannot accommodate, we should not accommodate. In general cities, maybe the things with things like that. For the congestion, if we just at the outlet, if we not allow them in the Dhaka city, we cannot, or the provisions we can, without making the provisions for the passengers who uses this vehicle. What will be the fate of them? Plus, the person engaged, though it is very inhuman to thinking, to utilize that slow-moving vehicles, the rickshaws. I am sitting, some other person is pulling me, though it is inhuman, but it is a lot of controversy already we have gathered from here, number of presentation discussions. Of the congestion, to solve the congestions, there is a general saying like this: within the city or the core of the city, the subway is the matter of great importance. Now there is a saying, there is a controversy between two things. The limited arrangement and the subway arrangement. The subway arrangement is costly, right? But I think elevated arrangement, the elevated express what we thinking in the Dhaka city, it will not be a long-term expressway. We are inviting the number of cars in the city. Naturally, number of cars more means again the congestion more. And there is a question of economy that in subway arrangement is highly costly. We cannot, at this moment, we cannot afford that. But there is a proverb বলে যে একজন গুজরও মাঝে মধ্যে তীর্থে শুতে ইচ্ছা হয়। And in solving the, trying to solving the traffic hazard in Dhaka city, I have to think like that way. Though very optimistic to go for subway, very expensive at the moment, but I think that will be the solution.
Today we are discussing on the subject that how to make Dhaka city transport system a sustainable one, that means how to develop it in a sustainable way. We should not look at it only on Dhaka city because city is linked with the country as well. So we interrelate it with whole country because people are coming to Dhaka city and going from Dhaka city to outside as well. And then we have to also look at the migration of the people who are coming to Dhaka city. But at the moment, the present situation, if we want to improve it, we have to think on some immediate action, some medium term and some long term actions. And I think the presentations are very good and probably those are the things which we are discussing always. And also it's the reality of the fact that we don't have any real plan what we really want to do. And that is the transport strategy, transport plan what we are talking about is not yet final. However, I have some my own ideas may correlate with some of the ideas as well. Say for example, a lot of discussions are going on elevated expressway, underground, mass rapid transport system. But the thing is that immediately we need to do something. That is the management of the traffic system in the city. That is a real mess because big buses are still working on the street. In intercity buses, they are also having their starting point in the middle of the city in the different parts, and also the footpaths are enclosed and the happens of parking and then the control and the management. If we can manage the traffic system, then it can be some immediate measures, and also some immediate measures can be made like this, that is circular road, making a circular road. Although we have part of it on the embankment, but the eastern part is not yet complete and not it's fully circular, like the in all big cities like say in London city, motorway M25, that has got a very good traffic diversion. Say in our Dhaka city, if we which we can do it in a very short way, that outer periphery, throughout the outer periphery, you can a big circular highway and connecting the city in different points, so then in internal traffic which want to go to other end of the city, that can pass straight away. And also, as we are building the road throughout the country, the rural road system and the market system, what we are improving, that is also another solution where if we can attract to stay and the more economic activity if we can create, and that can also reduce the migration as what we are doing it. The moment in the rural area, you will be, I think, knowing that the total 60,000 kilometers of road system existing in the rural area, because we are gradually improving it. About 20,000 markets exist in the rural area in 482 sub-districts of the Jodha. So these 20,000 markets, if we can gradually improve it with all the basic facilities, then I think the anticipated population, what we are thinking about 25 crore in the near future, but we can then reduce the pressure on Dhaka city. On the other hand, so the summary, what I like to say that short term, medium term and long term. So short term, the improvement of the management of the traffic system in Dhaka city, as well as also some not this one or two flyovers like in Mahakali or this Kilgaon. If we can take up a route, and if we can say from Uttara to Jathabadi, if we can take up a route and the intersections, if we can at least make a crossing possible through the intersections, then we can also start on ad hoc basis or on short-term basis. Then long-term basis, definitely the mass rapid transit system, underground and elevated expressway will be the solution.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shahidul Hassan, for your thoughts which you have shared with us. Now we have two very distinguished special guests with us, and we'd like to hear their views also. And they are sitting on my left, Mr. Kamrul Islam Siddiq, who was the former secretary of the government, and also the at one time the chief engineer and founder of the LGD, local government engineering department, and also Mr. Abdullah Harun Pasha, he was the former secretary also, and currently is the chairman of the board of directors of WASA. So, Mr. Kamrul Islam, would you like to share some of your thoughts first?
So in fact, it's one of the most public debated subject, the Dhaka transportation, and also looking into what are the transport policies for the whole country. And it is not only a hotly debated subject, but also it's very vital for Bangladesh, very vital for economy, very vital for our economic growth. We shouldn't forget that for any countries, or particularly for Dhaka city's development, in fact, 40% GDP comes from Dhaka in and around. But what's the transportation system of Dhaka city? All of you, the NRBs, who are coming from USA, Canada, from all over the world, you have seen your cities, how it is there. In fact, the transport planning is very much linked with city planning. In fact, if city planning is wrong, the whole thing goes wrong. Practically, that is the main problem for Dhaka city. We can't talk things in isolation. Though that, in fact, we have the sectoral planning, we have the ministries, we have the different authorities, but the problem is how things are being done in a coherent way for the Dhaka city. In fact, I find it predominantly the whole thing is an institutional problem. And I have also handled these issues of transport problem for Dhaka city, and also there are transport planning in general for the country. What we really can do, not a question of working on a theoretical basis, or just not giving some of my ideas how to implant it just on a theoretical basis. Rather that we can see how things have been in and around. We don't have to go for New York or to Vancouver or to Seattle. Just to look on the next road in Calcutta city. In Calcutta, it was one of the worst messy situation in transportation. And in Calcutta, now you would find how they have developed the underground metro, how they are going for a rapid expressway, and in fact there are so many flyovers, they are now going a metro under the Ganga, and how their traffic management has improved. Even if there is any red sign, people don't cross. That is the graduation of people and how the people they have improved themselves. That is the lesson that we can learn from. I have seen the Calcutta entire traffic system. I have been to Delhi Metro, but Delhi Metro has a different situation. But just look into Calcutta under the same socio-economic condition or same typical Bengali temperament, and also same congestion, and in the same situation, how they could do it. And in fact, looking into, but there is also reference of good cities, like Singapore. In Singapore, there has been one speaker has mentioned about why we are not looking into Singapore. Singapore Land Transport Authority. That is the best model in the whole region. And Singapore Land Transport Authority, and you know that Singapore, how that city is environmentally one of the top graded cities. There is no pollution. Of course, if you can't say that there can't be pollution because even a single automobile or any households can also emit pollution, those are all theoretical things. But from a state level, how they have looked their entire infrastructure planning as one of the most sustainable, and it's a pro-environmental. And the Singapore Land Transport Authority, they are managing underground metro, they are managing LRT, they are managing rapid expressway, that means overhead expressways for major corridors, even going up to just near the Malaysian border, and even they have their one of the best model of bus service there. All these are linked up with their residential neighborhoods. In fact, these examples are here with us. But also I can give you some of the combination of improved ones, like say Mexico. It's one of the mega cities. In Mexico you will find combination of all this. Underground metro, LRT, and also there is one of the new concepts being talked about, not very new, it is more than 10 years. There is BRT, Bus Rapid Transit System. It first started with cities in Colombia and some other cities, and some cities are looking into. But Mexico is another unique mega city where they are practically trying for all those things. But in Bangladesh, when something comes, too much diversion starts. And I know one New York-based NGOs conglomerates. I know those people, those professors and teachers. I meet them in many places and in many conferences worldwide. They talk about, in Bangladesh, we shouldn't think about any of such costly process, because this will destroy the environment, this will be too much costly, this will go for too much energy consumption, and they tell us that we should remain in a primitive stage living with the rickshaws. There are some people also, London-based NGOs and others, they talk like this. But they don't understand that should we remain on a $400 economy forever, living with the rickshaws, or should we graduate ourselves to at least $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000? If you go for even $2,000 per capita, even from all the countries, even $30,000 economy were coming. So in that context, if we had to go for, we would have to invest on transport. There is no other way. And to do that, there are technology available, there are financial modes available, and also, of course, complying with the environment. Of course, for the Dhaka city, one of the ways we could see, we can put all the combination, and that is very much in the Dhaka strategic transport plan. Practically, that transport plan was mostly the work, 90% work, not 90%, 100% work was done under my guidance. And I bear full responsibility for that. And there was a high-powered steering committee, and then in that steering committee, Dr. Rahmatullah and many other distinguished people are here. So without going into detail, don't say that this is a trash and this is not practically applicable. Look into anywhere in the world, whether it is in Europe or in Asia. Transport investment is one of the government's major responsibility, like investment in health, in education, and all the social sector the way it gets, because transport, large number of users are poor people. And for that matter, how government is putting investment in the transport sector. So in that way, it should be looked into, and definitely there are major important projects which cannot be always done through private sector. It should always be a combination of public sector and the private sector. And to be looked into, since I really cannot go into detail, but what I am asking for, one of the major problems why Dhaka transport could not improve, because there was too much politics in it. Politics both from the government from the government agencies, how they have practically whole thing put under their control for their own financial benefit, and also there are politics from other lobbies from the outside the government. But we must have to be very, very careful and be very specific to fix up all those things. Because the basic problem started from the birth of Dhaka Transport Coordination Board, because the whole thing was a political structure. It was under the control of the politicians, and in that the whole thing was just jeopardized. And the corruption that you have mentioned, it was because it was due to the political control. But on the other hand, I have suggested that to transform the Dhaka Transport Coordination Board into Dhaka Transport Coordination and Development Authority, with the full responsibility for planning, coordination and implementation. In fact, in that way, and free from the politics, the way the Dhaka City Corporation has practically swallowed the whole thing, and it has become their own means of the politicization and making money. And whatever you are hearing, all these things of Chhatrabadi flyover, or even all these works done by, how much money went through corruption, through all these ends. But on the other hand, what could be, unless this organization is transformed, and in fact now under the present government, it's very easy. Through practically a high-level decision of the councils of advisors, this DTCP law could be changed to give us such a mandate of a strong planning, coordination and implementation, and also practically implement many important programs, even by inviting the private sector investment. And Dhaka Metro, very well, I told, instead of going for long debates, go and see what has been done in Calcutta. Of course, what could be looked into the technical design, what are the route selection, and all these things could be looked into, but simultaneously we must look into how this metro should be linked up with the other means of transport, because in future it could be light rail, because if we really go for light rail, we permanently block the road space. If we go for right now, this elevated expressway, we block the road space as well as the underground permanently. Calcutta, they are the most intelligent people because they are first gone for using the underground space. Then they are going for other. But if you go for other things, as if that we are all fools, and that you permanently block all the major routes and the in fact alignment, because in Dhaka city there is no space. And in that context, we would have to find out what are our priorities, what we should do. Because once we use the underground, then all our other options remain. But don't remember, we must make it just interactive. Because Malaysia made a major fault when there are all the three in fact LRTs can't just, their tickets cannot be interactive. And in fact, many of the major transportation planners, they look into it must be interacting, like in Singapore or in London. You can buy a bus ticket, you can go to MRT and everywhere you can do. You must have to make it interacting. And in fact, there are many good ways that even since it's very costly, mostly this is the tunneling and the tracks and signaling, it goes to the public sector. Government or donors finance. But the railway coaching, ticketing, all these things goes to private sector. I don't know how this new thing is coming up, but I think there are ways we can definitely look into how we can use our underground space first. And also putting this our Transport Coordination Authority into a very strong footing. Of course, by rules of business, it is the Minister of Transport who have to develop it. And instead of flying through too many versions, too many things, and too much on the rickshaws, I think it is time that we must strive on the right thing to do it. Because it is not that just for fun that there are rickshaws in the London, there are rickshaws in the New York, but this is just fun. They are not dealing with all this unlicensed 600,000 rickshaws in a city, which is just like a domain for mafias, domain for many other people. But at the end, the last my point, there has been discussion on the highway privatization. In fact, in India, National Highway Authority is going for 60,000 crores of highway development throughout the whole country. And it's a unique combination of government money, it's a unique combination of private sector investment, both local and foreign, and also it's a more money from the taxation on fuels and others. In fact, there is a way that though we have a Jamuna Bridge Authority, it has been named into a Bridge Development Authority, why not turn into a National Highway Authority, covering all the bridges and the roads privatization, and also a combination of all the monies together. Then in fact in Bangladesh we can go for large number of things, because I know that there has been a proposal for Dhaka Highway to Roads and Highways. But Roads and Highways is a government agency. In fact, in future, maybe you can go for securitization. You can go for more money from the private sector. Then government authority cannot do it, because Dr. Rahmatullah is an expert on that. And in fact, in that way, we can give also for a national highways and others, some of the organization who can take care of. Thank you.
Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Special Guests, Moderator, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank the organizers, Scholars Bangladesh, for inviting me to this workshop. I am personally extremely happy that our young people who are outside Bangladesh, they have started a formal organization and they are thinking about Bangladesh and they would like to help our country. When we were students, our younger days in the late 50s and 60s, most of the bright young people from our universities, from Dhaka University or Rajshahi University or Buet or medical colleges, they used to stay in the country, and few would leave the country. Maybe they would go earn a higher degree, a PhD, and come back. But situation has changed for us. It has changed for many third world countries like India also. But India, I suppose, is a formal organization where there are bright people, the thousands and thousands are coming back. And I'm extremely happy that Scholar Bangladesh, they are organizing so that we have also thousands of our experts, our young people, our computer experts, our doctors, our engineers, our chartered accountants, our bankers. They would like to come back and help us. We have had this serious brain drain for the last couple of years. Now we would like to have brain gain. I have two sons, and they are also NRBs. They are non-resident Bangladeshis. Both are bankers. One son is in London. He's working for an American bank. Another is in San Francisco. I will ask them to contact you and if they can help us. I have other relatives. I have a brother-in-law who is a very good biotechnologist, very good. And he frequently comes to Dhaka. He's staying in Australia. They were trying to set up a biotechnology institute in Bangladesh for the last couple of years. I was also a secretary in the Science and Technology Ministry a long time back. I think it was 93, 94. And the project started from then, from 92, 93. The building has been constructed, but still not functional. It's not functioning. And he is a totally frustrated man. He frequently comes, but he says that nothing will happen in this country. Biotechnology, as you know, is a very flourishing thing. And for a developing country, information technology and biotechnology are the two things that count. There was a paper on improving drainage system and transportation system in the city, but the speaker has not come. Since I'm in some way connected with Dhaka Wasa, I think I should say a few words on the city's drainage problems and, if time permits, on sewer problems. As we all know, Dhaka is the administrative, commercial and industrial center of Bangladesh. The city's population is growing quite rapidly since independence in 1971. The current population is estimated at 12 million, which is forecast to grow to more than 13 million in 2010-80, which is in 2-3 years' time, and to more than 16 million in 2025-80. These are Planning Commission estimates. Spatially, the city has expanded, though in a less spectacular fashion. During the Mughal period, about 300-400 years back, the city was only 10 square kilometers along the banks of the Buriganga River. During the British and Pakistan periods, the city had expanded to 22 square kilometer and 50 square kilometer respectively. Presently, Dhaka city, east and west, is 260 square kilometer, TND area is 57 square kilometers, and Naranganj is 33 square kilometer. These are Wasa's responsibilities. The rapid increase of the urban population of the city in the past has created a severe overload on the existing infrastructure and services like water supply, sanitation, solid waste collection and disposal, and drainage services in particular. Due to poor sanitation services, poor drainage facilities, uncontrolled discharge of household and industrial waste, and inadequate management of solid waste disposal, the city's environmental conditions are declining. The social infrastructure of Dhaka city has made the issues even more complicated due to acute and widespread poverty of a significant proportion of inhabitants who live in bastis and shanties, and the physical and ecological vulnerability of the area. To cope with these problems, Dhaka Water and Sewerage Authority was created in 1963. The mandate of Dhaka Wasa is to provide safe and sufficient water for drinking, industrial and commercial use. Number 2, ensure sanitation and good hygienic conditions through proper disposal of domestic and industrial sewerage, and ensure efficient stormwater drainage. Dhaka is lucky to have rivers all around the metropolis. Buriganga River to the south and west, Tongi Khal and Turag River to the north, and Balu River to the east. River Shidalaka lies further east, and Dholeshwari River to the southwest. These rivers act as reservoirs of stormwater, municipal and industrial wastewater, as well as supplying a part of the drinking water of the city's inhabitants. Now I'd like to say a few words about stormwater drainage. Once the city was interlaced with numerous natural channels or khals and wetlands, which acted as convenient passages and temporary retention systems for stormwater generated in the city. These are being continually filled up by new settlements, both legal and illegal. The city had excellent natural drainage system as late as 1960s, that is barely 40 years back. With rapid expansion of the city, the natural drainage has been intervened and in some places destroyed. In late 60s, a master plan on city drainage and flood control was drawn up. Again in early 90s, a study on improvement of stormwater drainage in Dhaka city was conducted by JICA. A master plan was also formulated under the flood action plan. By the time that elapsed between the preparation of the plan and its implications, the drainage scenario had changed quite significantly due to various changes in topography, land use, and interventions. In 1989, the responsibility for the drainage system of the city was shifted from the Department of Public Health Engineering to Dhaka Wasa. So much about the history and background of the city's drainage system. Now a few figures about the existing drainage infrastructure. In order to remove waterlogging of the city after heavy downpour, this drainage infrastructure was constructed through several projects. Existing drainage infrastructure, we have 250 kilometers of storm sewer lines in the city, 11 kilometers of box culvert, open channels, khals, 54 kilometers, 3 pumping stations. It was observed during the flood of 2004 that different areas in the western part of the city inside the flood protection embankment remain underwater even after medium rainfall during monsoon. Insufficient pumping facilities inside the dike area and encroachment of natural channels are the main reasons for this waterlogging. After the completion of embankment in 1990, pump stations have been constructed only on the western embankment. In order to meet the discharge capacity for pumping, drainage pump stations are required to be constructed at the eastern part of the embankment area. A committee was formed to identify and report on the status of the existing drainage channels. 43 channels or khals were identified and marked by the committee, out of which 22 channels were earmarked for eviction of encroachers and unauthorized structures from the channels or khals. Eviction of such unauthorized structures on the drainage channels have been completed by this time, except for some portions of the channels due to legal problems and stay orders from courts. This was largely possible because of the assistance provided by the joint forces. Re-excavation, cleaning and development of drainage channel is a continuous process. 12 kilometers of drainage channels have so far been cleaned. There is a program for re-excavation of 10 kilometers of drainage channels during this financial year. Finally, a few words about the initiatives taken by DWASA for stormwater drainage improvement. And these are preparation of drainage master plan for Dhaka city and Narayanganj, bounded by the rivers of Shitarakka, Balu, Turak and Buriganga. Retrieval of the drainage system of this city, preservation of regulating ponds adjacent to Kullanpur pumping station, network analysis for evaluation and management of drainage system, construction of drainage system in D&D area, Dhaka Integrated Flood Protection Embankment cum Eastern Bypass and Multi-Purpose Project. A few words about the sewerage system. This is a related issue in the city. At present, Dhaka Wasa has only 810 kilometers of sewer lines compared to 2,500 kilometers of existing water lines. There is only one sewer treatment plant in Dhaka, and that is located in Pagla. The capacity of this existing treatment plant is 120,000 cubic meter per day. But unfortunately, we can't utilize that. Even on this lone power plant, we can use only 25 to 40% of its capacity. This is due to dysfunctioning of trunk sewer from Tesgaon to Pagla. The coverage area by the conventional sewer system is only 110 square kilometer out of the 350 square kilometer of this metropolis. That is about 31%. The population served is only 20%. Here the natural question is, what about the rest of the population if only 20% of the people are served by these sewer lines? People in areas outside Wasa coverage are using septic tanks in most cases. This indicates clearly the poor scenario of the sewer system in Dhaka city. There is no sewer system in vast areas of the city. As a result, discharge of untreated wastewater from households and industries create in their immediate vicinities serious health hazards, particularly for the urban poor, settled close to open water bodies and who are most directly affected during flooding periods. Dhaka Wasa is aware of the limitations and inadequacies of the existing system. A rational approach has been devised towards developing a master plan of sewage system, and implementation of different sewage projects should be undertaken in phases based on priority considerations. The World Bank has shown keen interest in providing funds for sewage and stormwater drainage projects. Studies are going on under different packages. Sewage system expansion to non-served areas is required. 5 sewage treatment plants along with pipelines and ancillary structures are required, in addition to the one that we have. According to a study, the health condition of urban slum settlements are extremely bad. At any given time, 30 to 50% of the population suffer from emissions of water-related diseases. Most of the diseases are related to poor environmental condition and particularly waterborne. It is extremely important to improve water quality of the surrounding rivers and wetlands, save aquifer systems and soil from contamination, and improve environmental conditions. Expansion and rehabilitation of the existing sewer sanitation system is of utmost importance, and new sewer treatment plants are needed. Finally, I would again like to thank the organizers for inviting me, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience.
Now we are very much at the end, and I will be giving the floor for 2 minutes to 3 minutes, not more than that, brother, because we are very much behind the schedule.
I am Dr. Ali Akbar Modi. Basically, I am a structural engineer. While I was doing my higher education, PhD in the University of Hiroshima, I was there in that city for more than 7 years, and in the Tokyo, Yokohama, I was for about 9 years. And as being an engineer, I kept my eyes and ears open, and from that experience, I would like to comment. After repatriating from Japan, after living there more than 70 years in Dhaka, in 1999, I tried to write some articles in the Dhaka dailies, and from that point of view, I would like to give you just 2-3 comments. this Dhaka city especially, you see here your garment factory is here, Kacha Bazar, public, private, English, Bangla school, diagnostic center, and all these health institutions, educational institutions, all things are here. As if a soldier in the battlefield, we are a costume, like to get water from here and medicine from here and everything from here and here. So the Dhaka city is like the body of a soldier, a costume of a soldier. So decentralization is necessary. This is number one I want to tell you. And number two is that due to lack of our sophisticated public transport system, even the Secretary of Transportation Ministry or two secretaries of the ministry, they occupy the road, the street on in Dhaka city by 2 Pajero jeeps, and that is equivalent to 1 bus that can be utilized by 50 passengers. So this is one of the problems. And likewise, the school children are going, the mothers or parents are taking these children to the school, and the growth of the children are not in the right way. It is very, very bad way, and the mothers are spending a lot of hours in front of the school, in the premises of the school. This problem must be solved from this country. And my third point is that elevated way. This point is going to coincide with the comments of Mr. Kamrul Islam Siddiqui. I would like to tell you from my experience that the elevated expressway or elevated, whatever the elevated, I mean the surface, what I seen in the city of Hiroshima, in the city of Manila, is part of Manila, in the city of Sydney, that the surface transport is not good, and this is very, very bad for this city of these 150 million people, city of Dhaka, because the views are severely damaged, You please think that if you make even a flyover or even a overbridge, foot overbridge in the Manikmaya Avenue, then what will be about the view? It will be severely damaged. So please use the underground space. Please build your subway system, sophisticated subway system. What I have seen in the city of Tokyo, where I worked for more than 9 years. And another thing is that in this accommodation, 8% space in this Dhaka city, total area 8% only your road space. By using this system, if your bus system is disciplined, it is not disciplined at all. Even you cannot find a zebra crossing on the street. Do you know how many people are killed over this Shahabad crossing and this Bangla motor? How many people just during that crossing, one bus came and just vanished that life of the Dhaka University students, male students and female students. So this problem should be solved. And my last point is that all you are the expatriate. I was also, and I am working for Japanese company, and I am working for other countries, of the Asia. Not for Bangladesh, I am always, my status is expatriate and I am earning foreign currency. That's nice. But I urge all the expatriate, because you are with, not only with brain, you have a lot of experience. Please solve our problem. And if you want, and any authority, if you want to call me, I will respond positively. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Now it is my turn to make a little bit of, not a summary, but to capture main issues which have come up in the discussion and share my thoughts also on those issues. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers who have invited me to be the moderator of this session. It was very rewarding. I've been able to learn many things from many of the speakers, many of the people who have taken the floor. And I'd like to thank also the 2 speakers who have prepared their papers for presentation here. These were very thought-provoking. First of all, one issue has been raised repeatedly is the non-motorized transport versus motorized transport, where non-motorized transport should play a role, if any. Now, we have a very big confusion here, I can see, that nobody has said the non-motorized transport should be completely eliminated from Dhaka city immediately. It has been done in many countries, very successfully done. But we are saying, the planners are saying, that from the main roads, which are in conflict with the motorized, which is giving the generation of the resources for the country, because cities are known to be the engine of growth. Now, if you kill a city by putting a non-motorized transport in front of a motorized transport, and which is going at 5-6 kilometer speed or 10 kilometer speed, what do you expect from that city? That is the minimum understanding we should have, that we should not bring them in conflict with motorized, which is supposed to be giving the lifeline, the growth of the city. So you bring them to a feeder system where there is no other mode of transport available. Say bus cannot go into, 33% of the city roads have 2 lanes in Dhaka. 2 lanes only. A bus needs at least 2 lanes. Others are less than 2 lanes. That is 1 lane or even track. So nobody is asking that you continue bus transport in those little lanes, but let the monomotorized transport play their role in those areas and work as a feeder to the mainline system. Number 2, MRT versus BRT versus LRT. This issue has come repeatedly. Now, without a feasibility study for a city of 10, 15 now million, we cannot decide whether it should be LRT, MRT. But if you keep the lessons from other cities, take lessons from other cities, you will find that a high capacity system is about 60 to 70,000 people per hour per direction is the MRT heavy rail. If you go for a light rail, it becomes immediately 25-30,000. Now, if you build one LRT, you kill the prospect of building a heavy rail there. So immediately the question comes in, do we need high capacity there? So a feasibility study should determine whether we need an MRT or an LRT. Now the question of BRT is a bus rapid transit, which needs a little bit of space. It has been done successfully in those new cities where there was a lot of space. But since MRT, which is a rail-based we are talking about, whether it is underground or elevated, it depends on the cost, as well as the geographical situation, geological situation, construction technology, all these are issues. Because in a construction technology, you can open cut, make a underground, and then fill it up, and then make a roof, or you can go drilling. Now, these are all cost related. Again, India initially started with the entire underground Calcutta, which is 17-kilometer Calcutta route. But now they are going for a different version. 20% underground, about 80% elevated because of the cost. Because cost is just double, underground and elevated. If it is again a soil condition of our city, which may be a little bit. So I'm not debating that. If it is better to go for underground, if we can make it, if we can afford it. Because the question of subsidy comes immediately. The moment you build an extra infrastructure costly, government shall have to bear the cost. And they cannot charge people because they have no affordability. So the question of subsidy comes, how much subsidy government can afford. So whole thing should be left to a feasibility study, should be immediately undertaken, because STP suggested MRT shall have to be built in Dhaka city. Now the sooner we can build it, the sooner we can solve it, the problem. A city of 10-15 million cannot live without an MRT. This is the first situation. Now coming to STP's issue. Many people have said that STP had not recommended this and that properly, feasibility study has not been done, the cost benefit analysis. It is a strategic study. You must understand, in 2 years, how can you undertake a full feasibility study of and give cost benefit analysis of a project, which is not expected from STP. STP is a strategic plan, how the city will grow, what are the main development it should be, how this should be coordinated, and this coordination aspect of different modes has been repeatedly stressed in STP. So we should not get a misunderstanding, and if anyone who has not got the full copy of STP, you can ask Mr. Rafiqul Islam. He is here, the former deputy team leader of STP. He will provide you full copy. Please study that, then criticize it if there are weaknesses. Number 3, private sector involvement. Now, we have been debating about the private sector involvement, whether it's an urban area or in the inter-urban area. In both areas, private sector is possible. when you say that in the urban area, private sector involvement, look at other developed cities or developing cities. Bangkok is one good example. Lot of infrastructure has been built in the city, flyovers, not as flyovers, it's expressways, several kilometers. They're all private sector built, entirely user charge. So government is not taxed. So why we should raise a question that yes, government money is being drained out to build expressways for the vehicles. If the vehicle owners are ready to pay, if you're not interrupting the private sector, the mass transit route, it's not in conflict with the mass transit route, what is the problem? If the private sector, the road users are paying for it, not government money. I'm not talking about government money. Private sector, if it is a flyover, not flyover, expressways, it should come from the user's charges. That means private sector should build it and it should be paid for completely by the users, not government money. If it is a MRT, part of this could be from the government money because it is quite expensive infrastructure. Operation could be left to the private sector. So coming to investment in the inter-urban area, National Highway Authority of India, from where E Chowdhury Shameem is here, it is a good example. Malaysia is a good example. Pakistan is a good example, where they have used the existing right-of-way. For the chief engineer, this is an information you should note. A team went under my leadership to India to visit some of the projects which they have built. Our Commissioner Siddiq was referring to Calcutta. I intentionally took Calcutta as an example, that if they have developed, why we should not be able to develop. They have developed very good infrastructure around Calcutta, within Calcutta, and inter-urban Calcutta. What they have done, use the same right-of-way, which is about 40 meter plus, which we have also in our country. What they have done, private sector has built the middle part as the expressway. So, which is two lane plus divider plus shoulder, standard. So, it is a wide 2-lane divided highway. Then rest on both sides, they have built a service road of 2 lane each on left side, 2 lane each on the other side, which is free for movement of the people. So our friend from environment, we are not talking about killing new land, which we are against it. We should use the same road which is left unused now or is half-heartedly used. If you make 4-lane Dhaka-Chittagong without limited access, if the access is not controlled, that it is not 4-lane at all. You will find half of the cars parked on the road. If it is a limited access, then only it's the expressway. And Dhaka-Chittagong road can be easily made a private sector oriented road, private investment if you give the right of way and call the private sector to invest the same way India has done. What they have done, as I said, middle part expressway, 2 sides service lane, which are for the users who are living on the road and using the road free. This is available. Whole thing is maintained by the private sector for 25-30 years of lease period. So this is the one we are talking about. Traffic free. That means someone said that if Dhaka-Chittagong is the only example, other roads cannot be. I differ. India has gone for another example called annuity. Annuity means private sector builds the road, but charges only part of it for 25 years annually. So government is not bearing the cost at one go, but is only bearing 1/25 of the cost, and which is called a shadow tolling system. So there are many ways of building expressways with the private sector involvement, which could help us from many angles, as our friend Torobdar has mentioned. Now, traffic management. Now, Dhaka city is suffering today because we have not been able to get full space which were built for roads. They are occupied by builders by parking their, putting their bricks or using as a store for the building materials, or a vehicle is parked on the road, or a small shop is started on the road. So road is not available for the vehicles to use. So this is entirely traffic management fault. That means we are not enforcing strict traffic management for the city. So who is at fault? It is the decision makers, it is the enforcement agency of the government who is not enforcing the law which is available in their hand. As a result, everybody is using road as if it is not for vehicle movement. Even the footpath is not available. It's all occupied. So this is called traffic management, which we should go, then only build new roads. We have a shortage of roads in Dhaka city. Again, east-west connections are not there. As a result, the moment traffic is stuck, you are stuck. Because you have neither can go on the right, neither go on the left. But look at any developed city. There are grid-iron system, many alternatives are there. The moment you are stuck, you take a right turn or left turn and get away out of this place. But here, we cannot. So east-west connections is a must for Dhaka city, and then only the traffic congestion can be reduced. Decentralization is another issue. It is a must for Bangladesh because concentrated development, the way the Dhaka city is growing, our environmental friend will be very happy. Decentralized development gives, as from the very beginning, our friend, the first speaker, talked about it, that unless you develop the rural areas, smaller towns, plan them properly, develop them properly so that people do not rush to bigger cities. That is the way decentralized development is the ultimate solution. And that means the physical planning of the country and infrastructure development shall have to go together. So this is a very well taken point. Lack of professionals in the field of transport planning and traffic engineering. And this is a transport economist, is a very big shortage in the country. And I recently talked to Buet. Today, in fact, there are 60 years of engineering education was opened. I was supposed to be there, but I could not be because I was here. And one suggestion they have taken, which I gave to them, that the 1 year or 15 months to 18 months course shall have to be started in the traffic engineering specialization for those planners who have graduated from different universities in urban and regional planning to specialize in transport planning and transport economists. So this is what they are thinking of, and some further discussion will take place to meet the difficulties here, the shortage. But you, our friends from NRBs, if you have the expertise, if you could come for a short while once the course is started to teach for a semester, that will be the type of contribution you could make to development of professionals in the field of transport planning and economics. Now, physical planning versus transport planning, Mr. Kamrul Islam has very rightly mentioned. What we have been doing in Dhaka city, we have been giving permission for building certain things. Our Rajuk representatives are here. But it was a residential purpose, suddenly you change it to another purpose, land use, like hospitals, schools, which generate a lot of traffic, which is not supposed to be the character of that city, of that part of this city. So there is no relationship between the land use and the transport development, requirement, and generation. Secondly, overall planning, land use and transport must be together, must be maintained and managed together. So one authority was supposed to be dealing with that. That was the suggestion of STP, which has not been yet considered by the government. So that sort of situation, that sort of solution probably will be the most useful. I'd like to stop here. I'd like to thank again the organizers before we invite our honorable chief guest, the Secretary Minister of Communication, to speak and share his thoughts. Sir, you have the floor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable special guests, Mr. Moderator, distinguished guests, colleagues from the media, NRB friends, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Maybe I'll try to be brief, but there are some thoughts generated from our presentations, questions and answers. And my speech will be a combination of both Bangla and English, and also will not necessarily reflect my present position as Secretary Minister of Communication. The purpose or objective is to ensure easy access to our
chosen destination through a quality travel. That is the whole issue of today's seminar, I suppose. And the papers, both papers, are very interesting and very rich in contents, very comprehensive. And as Secretary Minister of Communications, I have learned a lot of things from the presentation. Although it is not my domain, I am a social scientist, not pure scientist or physical scientist like you. And I think it has provided a lot of opportunity for me to think in future, but also at the same time successfully contributed for confusion also. So whenever I meet experts, I'm getting more confused. And important thing is we are not sure. The experts, our colleagues, engineers are not sure what to do. So that's why sometimes I want to say that, okay, come together in this room, I'll lock you, give you food, reach a consensus, give me suggestions, I'll try to implement. So during 80s I was in the film. চলচ্চিত্রে ছিলাম আমি. So one day there was a request to produce one film within 2 or 3 days. We have to write stories. So what I did, so তখন চিত্রালী সম্পাদক ছিলেন আহমেদ জামান চৌধুরী and director will be আমজাদ হোসেন. তো সবাইকে ডেকে একটা হোটেলে আমি বললাম যে যা ইচ্ছা তাই করেন, কালকে আমি স্টোরিটা চাই. So আপনাদেরকেও আমি just I can request you just come together, all engineers. Sit together here, stay here 2 nights, 3 nights, and you'll get whatever you like, but give me one suggestion with a full consensus. I'll try to implement. Government is ready to implement. Okay, please, সবাইকে নিয়ে, please, সবাইকে নিয়ে. We have successfully identified the problems we are facing, especially in this mega city. And our guests, our speakers, our scholars, not now, not today. This is my 10 months, 20 days in my office as Communications Secretary, and this is my 4th ministry. So, these sort of suggestions I've been hearing from the very beginning of my office. These findings, these suggestions, do that, don't do that. So these things are not new to me. And you have identified the problem that is also not new. And main problem is the space, as you mentioned already, and lack of decentralization. I did my PhD in decentralization, I think 15 years back. And I also gave a lot of suggestions to my government, but most of them were not implemented. And why, I will tell later. So decentralized space problem. In this city, if you compare with Bangkok and other cities, so we have very limited space for roads, maybe 7 to 8%, whereas in developed countries or Europe, 20 to 25%, even 30% space is devoted to roads. But here only 7 to 8%, in Bangkok 11%. But we're not going to stop this, because the name of Raju was mentioned, I don't know. Recently, I saw a presentation where I've seen that one of the Prajuk plan near this hotel, somewhere near this hotel, there is a building, and under the road, they have occupied all the lands under this road, this main road, airport road. So the plan was, I don't know whether it's true or not, plan was approved by Raju or something. So this small city, lot of population, every day coming from rural areas, we call it migration. সৈয়দ শামসুল হকের নাটক আমরা পড়েছি, পায়ের আওয়াজ পাওয়া যায় না, নাটকটা দেখেছি। সেখানে একটা ডায়লগ আছে, মানুষ আসতে আছে বানের লাহান। তো বানের লাহান প্রতিদিন মানুষ আসছে ঢাকা শহরে। উই ডোন্ট হ্যাভ স্পেস। কোথায় যাব, কিভাবে প্ল্যান করব, আপনারা বলেছেন, আমরা শুনবো। Some of the engineers came to see me. তারা বলেছে নো, আমি নাম বলে দিতে পারি কে কে যাত্রাবাড়ি ফ্লাইওভার ডিজাইনে ছিলেন, and they are experts. আমাদের এই ফ্লাইওভার মহাখালী কারা করেছে? আমরাই করেছি। এখন আমরা হাতে তালে দিচ্ছি, এখানে বলছি যে কি ম্যাসাকার হয়ে গেছে, ভাগ্যিস ম্যাসাকার আরেকটা থেকে আমরা রক্ষা পেয়েছি। আমরাই সেটা করেছি। এখন আমরা বলছি যে যাত্রাবাড়ি ক্যান্সেল হয়েছে কিনা আমি জানি না, ক্যাবিনেটে ডিসকাস হয়েছে, হয়তো হতে যাচ্ছে, বাট আমরা করেছি। কিন্তু আমরা ক্যান নট অ্যাভয়েড আওয়ার রেসপন্সিবিলিটি, উই ডিড দ্যাট। ইয়েস, পলিটিশিয়ানস সামটাইমস উই নো দ্যাম, তারা করে কেন করে না, উই নো দ্যাম। বাট আমরা যারা দোজ হু ক্লেম টু বি ইন্টেলেকচুয়ালস, প্রফেশনালস, আমরা তখন কেন সাপোর্ট দিয়েছিলাম। অ্যান্ড অলসো সাম এনভায়রনমেন্টালিস্ট। আমি সবসময় একটা গল্প বলি, উই অলওয়েজ ফলো ডাবল স্ট্যান্ডার্ডস। যখন যেটা আমার কাজে লাগে সেটা ইউজ করি। ওই যে এক ভদ্রলোক বলেছিলেন যে আমার ছেলেটা খুব পাজি, খুব খারাপ, কেমন সে বইয়ের কথা চলে, আর আমার মেয়েটা এত ভালো সে তার হাজবেন্ডকে টাইট দিয়ে রাখতে পারে। So always some of us, those who are intellectual, এই ধরনের কাজ করে যাচ্ছি। And what we do, we just put blame on each other. Blame on each other. আমি নিজের বলতে পারি এই 10 মাস 20 দিনে আমি কিন্তু ব্যর্থ হয়েছি। আমি সাহসের সঙ্গে স্বীকার করতে পারি। এবং কেন ব্যর্থ হয়েছি আমি জানি। আমারও একটা স্বপ্ন ছিল যে কমিউনিকেশন সেক্রেটারি এটা করব সেটা করব, কেন পারি না সেটাও আমি পারছি। বলা হয়েছে ওয়ার্ল্ড ব্যাংকের কথা আসছে। Yes, we need their help and we are grateful to them. World Bank, Asian Development and other donors, friendly countries, bilateral, multilateral, international donors. আমি মনে করি আজকে যারা আছেন নন রেসিডেন্ট বাংলাদেশি তাদের এটা শোনা উচিত। রহমতুল্লাহ সাহেব আছেন, উনিও এক্সপার্ট, এবং আমিও আছি, কারণ আমিও বাংলাদেশে ঢাকায় UNDP-তে 1.5 বছর কাজ করেছি কনসালটেন্ট হিসেবে। I was outside in the Maldives. I was UNDP consultant expert for 4 years, HRD consultant. So World Bank project দিচ্ছে, কোনো দিন nobody said no to any proposal. You don't have ability to say no to any proposal of World Bank or ADB. কখনো বলিনি। Why? কেন বলিনি? I am a secretary or project director. You will get an opportunity to visit Washington. You will get an opportunity to offer some scholarship to his dearest one. So we failed to say no. আজকে অনেকে বলেন আমাকে, just yesterday, day before yesterday, one of my ADB colleague, Asian Development colleague, gave me thanks. He said that okay, excellent, we could do it. একটা প্রজেক্টের আমরা পারসিস্টেন্টকে অ্যাপ্রুভ করতে পেরেছি লিমিট stipulated time. So I said that look, you are the people. আপনারাই আমার সরকারের পরামর্শ দিয়েছেন যে okay, there is a corruption, massive corruption, so develop a PPR. It's a very good instrument. So PPR এর জন্য আমরা ডিলে করতে হচ্ছে, but who made this PPR? কার ব্রেন চাইল্ড ছিল? ওয়ার্ল্ড ব্যাংক, ADB? এখন এই PPR এর জ্বালা আমি অস্থির হয়ে গেছি, কোনো প্রজেক্ট টাইমলি ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করতে পারছি না। সো তারা বলেছে যে এটা করেন, এটা করবেন না। এখন এই যে যমুনা ব্রিজ দিয়ে বঙ্গবন্ধু সেতু নিয়ে কথা উঠছে বা যমুনা সেতু যেটা বলি না কথা উঠছে কি যে এটাকে আবার সচিবালয় করতে হবে, একটা মিনিস্ট্রি করতে হবে। ডক্টর রহমতুল্লাহ ওয়াজ দেয়ার ইন এ মিটিং, isn't it? আমরা আলোচনা করেছি, they said that okay, if you don't make it a secretariat, we're not going to fund it. I said no, you can't do that, as you are the people যারা একবার সেক্রেটারি ছিল, এটা সচিবালয় ছিল, আবার এটাকে অথরিটি করেছেন আপনারাই, সো এখন এটা বলতে পারবেন না। আমি তাদের মুখে বলেছি, সো দিস আর দ্য পিপল, ডু দে হ্যাভ এনি অ্যাকাউন্টেবিলিটি? কার কাছে আছে? আমাদের যারা কনসালটেন্ট হয়ে আসছেন ওয়ার্ল্ড ব্যাংক থেকে, এশিয়ান ডেভেলপমেন্ট থেকে, যারা বিদেশি আসছেন, তাদের অ্যাকাউন্টেবিলিটি আছে কারো কাছে? কোনোদিন কোনো পিডি বলেছেন look, you are my employee, I've asked my chief engineer, DG Railway, to treat the consultant as our employees. I was employee of UNDP in the Maldives, so every day my secretary used to come to me, sir, please sign here. সকাল 7:30 তোমাকে সই করতে হবে। আচ্ছা, আমি UNDP এমপ্লয়ি। বলে নো, ইউ আর মালদ্বীপিয়ান গভর্নমেন্ট এমপ্লয়ি। তুমি মালদ্বীপ গভর্নমেন্ট যদি না বলতো তুমি এখানে আসতে পারতে না, সুতরাং তুমি এখানে সই করতে হবে হাজিরা খাতায় প্রত্যেকদিন, আমাকে না। অ্যাট দ্যাট টাইম মাই সিটিও ওয়াজ ফ্রম ক্যানাডা, ডক্টর সিনক্লেয়ার, বলে যে তোমাকে সই করতে হবে। আমরা কোনোদিন কোনো কনসালটেন্টকে বলেছি ওকে কাম অ্যাট 9:30, পুট সিগনেচার হিয়ার, আদারওয়াইজ আই উইল নট পে? কেউ বলেছি? কোনো প্রজেক্ট ডিরেক্টর বলেছি, কোনো অথরিটি বলেছি? আমরা বলিনি। সো এই কাজগুলো হয়ে যাচ্ছে দিনের পর দিন। উই ডিডন্ট সে নো, উই আর নট সেইং নো, আমরা সবাই করেছি। সুতরাং এই সমস্যাগুলো আমরা ফেস করছি, আপনারা এটা বুঝতে হবে। এবং আই ওয়েলকাম ইউ যারা বিদেশে আছেন, ইউ আর দ্য এক্সপার্টস, ইউ আর সার্ভিং দেয়ার, কাম ব্যাক, টেক অ্যাসাইনমেন্ট হিয়ার। এখানে এসে কিছু দেন সরকারকে, আমাদেরকে, জনগণকে। আগে ইয়ারডিতে একটা প্রজেক্ট ছিল, নাসের খান জানে, সেই তখন ইয়ারডিতে আমরা একসঙ্গে কাজ করেছি, টপ 10। থ্রু দোজ প্রজেক্ট, তো দ্যাট প্রজেক্ট আমরা কি করতাম, বাইরের বাংলাদেশি এক্সপার্টদেরকে দেশে নিয়ে আসতাম, তাদেরকে দিয়ে 2 মাস 3 মাস কাজ করাতাম, তারা আসতো। আমার মনে হয় এই ধরনের একটা অ্যারেঞ্জমেন্ট আবার থাকা উচিত আমাদের, সো দ্যাট আমাদের দেশি কনসালটেন্ট যেভাবে দেশটাকে দরদ দিয়ে দেখবে, শুধুমাত্র চাকরি করবে না, তারা তো সেটা করে না, করবেও না কখনো। সুতরাং এটা আপনাদের প্রতি আমার আবেদন। আমরা সেই জন্যে এই যে আমরা এসটিপির কথা বলছি, 14 crore টাকা খরচ হয়েছে এসটিপি তৈরি করতে, অনেক কনসালটেশন হয়েছে। আমরা এখন এটা ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশন করিনি, গভর্নমেন্টের লেভেলে আছে। এসটিপি নিয়ে অনেক ধরনের কথা আছে। এখন আপনারা আসেন, একমত হন, কি করবো আমরা? আপনারাই বলেন যে এসটিপি বাতিল করে দেবো না ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করব? কিভাবে ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করব আমাদেরকে বলতে হবে, যে কিভাবে করব। বাট কিন্তু আমাদেরকে অপেক্ষা করিয়ে রাখবেন না, দিনের পর দিন বসে থাকতে যাতে না হয় আমাদেরকে, গভর্নমেন্টকে। আপনারা বলুন, এখন দেয়ার ইজ অ্যান এনভায়রনমেন্ট, উই ক্যান ওয়ার্ক, উই আর ওয়ার্কিং, একটা পরিবেশ আছে আমাদের কাজ করার। এখন সেটাকে এক্সপ্লয়েট করতে হবে, সেই পরিবেশটা গ্রহণ করতে হবে। সেজন্য প্লিজ আমাদেরকে বলেন যে এসটিপি নিয়ে কি করব। উই হ্যাভ এ টাস্ক ফোর্স হেডেড বাই আওয়ার অনারেবল অ্যাডভাইজার, অল এক্সপার্টস আর দেয়ার, অনেকে আছেন। আমরা অপেক্ষা করতে পারবো না বেশি দিন, সেটা আমাদের করতে হবে। Yes, we have problems with the bureaucracy. We couldn't develop our institutions because of lack of support from political authorities and from bureaucracy. I am a member of bureaucracy, but always I say that it's not a bureaucracy. We are suffering from a disease called bureaucracy. So এই বিরোসিস রোগে আমরা নতুন না, যারা আগে ছিলেন তারাও কিন্তু ওই রোগের শিকার ছিলেন। And unfortunately they could not provide any medicine for us. So we need some sort of bureaupathological treatment to overcome bureaucratic resistance. Say bureaucracy so strong, it's anti-people. We couldn't make it pro-people. পারিনি, এটা হাত কিন্তু একদম গ্রাম পর্যন্ত বিউরোক্রেসির হাত সম্প্রসারিত, অ্যান্ড কাজের চাইতে অকাজ বেশি করে। যে কাজ সরকারের করা উচিত নয়, they are doing that. There is road on in green road, সেখানে দেখি যে সরকারের কি করে, ওই যে কাঁচা মরিচ বিক্রি করে, মানে বিএডিসির একটা দোকান আছে সেখানে they are selling vegetables. সরকারের কাছে ভেজিটেবল বিক্রি করা? ইউনিয়ন পর্যন্ত দোকান আছে গণপ্রজাতন্ত্রী বাংলাদেশ সরকার। অথচ ব্রিটেনে যারা আপনারা আছেন, আমরাও ছিলাম, সেখানে কোনোদিন সরকারের কোনো সাইনবোর্ড আছে এখানে? সো এই বিউরোক্রেসি, এই গভর্নমেন্টের হাত যত ছোট করা যায় ততই ভালো। তবে আমি মাঝে মাঝে বলি, স্মল গভর্নমেন্ট ইজ বেটার গভর্নমেন্ট, বাট নো গভর্নমেন্ট ইজ দ্য বেস্ট গভর্নমেন্ট, যদি করা যায়। আপনারা করতে পারবেন কেন দেখেন? পলিটিশিয়ানদের কথা বলা ঠিক না, আমি সরকারি চাকরি করি। Yes, last year I attended a workshop in Mongolia that was on NRD, newly restored democracy, NRD. So in Mongolia, I was a chairman of a session, and some of the journalists asked me, "What is your problem in Bangladesh?" I said that yes, our problem is we have surplus democracy. So what is that? I said that yes, democracy is a very good form of government, best form of government, but if you have surplus, then it creates problem, and we are suffering from a problem. So we have 8 MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, but they have 9 MDGs. One is political governance. That is important. So governance, bureaucratic governance and political governance, unless you can repair or change this governance system, you cannot implement any reform. So governance is important. And if you have a pure governance system, political or bureaucratic governance system, all other problems will be solved. And money is not a problem. And I always say that we have that capability. কিছুদিন আগে একজন ব্রিটিশ ভদ্রলোক, আমি অর্গানাইজেশনটার নাম বলবো না, এসে আমাকে কিছু অ্যাডভাইস দিচ্ছিলেন। আর এক পর্যায়ে বলে যে, লোক, দিস ইজ আওয়ার ট্যাক্স পেয়ার্স মানি, দিস আওয়ার ট্যাক্স পেয়ার, ইউ হ্যাভ টু ডু দিস ইন দিস ওয়ে। আই সেড, প্লিজ হ্যাভ এ কাপ অফ টি অ্যান্ড গেট আউট ফ্রম মাই রুম। সে আমাকে উপদেশ দিতে আসছে। সো আমরা কেন এটা সহ্য করে নেব? ডোনারদের সঙ্গে ডিল করতে হলে ডোনার্সদের, কনসালটেন্টদের যাও অ্যাকাউন্টেবিলিটি, তাদেরও অ্যাকাউন্টেবিলিটি নেই। আনফর্চুনেটলি আমাদের বিউরোক্রেসি আমরা এগুলো তৈরি করে দিয়ে গেছি। আই ওয়াজ ইন ERD ফর 7-8 ইয়ার্স। যে কনসালটেন্ট অথবা যে বিদেশি অর্গানাইজেশনের কর্তা ব্যক্তি আমার সঙ্গে, আই ওয়াজ এ সিনিয়র স্টেট সেক্রেটারি, স্লিপ দিয়ে আসতে হতো, তার গাড়ির দরজা খুলে দিতেন আমার জয়েন্ট সেক্রেটারি। So this is the situation. আমাদের ডোনার এজেন্সির ছোটখাটো একজন অফিসার এসেও আমাদেরকে ধমক দেয়, চোখ রাঙিয়ে কথা বলে, কেন এটা হবে? Why? আমি বলেছিলাম, লুক, তোমার ট্যাক্স পেয়ার মানি আমার দরকার নেই, লিভ। আমার যা রিসোর্স আছে, I can do that. I can manage my program well with my own resource. So this is the factor, this is the situation. আমরা অনেক কথা বলতে পারি এখানে, and we know a lot of things. আমরা কিন্তু নলেজ আছে আমাদের সবাই। আমি সবসময় একটা কথা বলি আমাদের ইঞ্জিনিয়ার সাহেবদের, ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালি উই আর ফাইনেস্ট পিপল, উই আর এক্সপার্ট ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালি, বাট কালেকটিভলি উই ফেল। এটা অন্যটা রিভার্স হওয়ার কথা ছিল, উচিত ছিল। সো আপনারা যারা এই উদ্যোগটা নিয়েছেন, আই এম রিয়েলি হ্যাপি যে ইউ আর সিরিয়াস অ্যাবাউট বাংলাদেশ, ইউর ওন কান্ট্রি। এটা যাতে ওয়ান টাইম অ্যাফেয়ার না হয়। আজকে যেসব রিকমেন্ডেশনস আসছে, কথা হচ্ছে, প্লিজ ট্রাই টু ফলো ইট আপ, এবং আমাদেরকে হেল্প করেন, আপনারা কনক্রিট সাজেশন দেন। আমি যেটা বলছি, উই ওয়ান্ট টু রিডিউস আওয়ার ডিপেন্ডেন্সি অন এক্সপেট্রিয়ার্স। আপনারা চলে আসেন এবং আপনাদের এই ফোরাম থেকে একটা দাবি তুলবেন, আপনারা দয়া করে, যে আপনাদের ইউ শুড হ্যাভ অ্যাপ্রোপ্রিয়েট স্টেক ইন আওয়ার ডেভেলপমেন্ট। যখন কোনো প্রজেক্টে কনসালটেন্ট নেওয়া হবে, দেয়ার শুড বি এ প্রভিশন যে এত% বাংলাদেশি হতে হবে, এত% এক্সপেক্টেড হতে হবে। এই দাবিটা এই ফোরাম থেকে আপনারা দয়া করে তুলবেন। এবং আপনার গভর্নমেন্টকে দিবেন, বাংলাদেশ গভর্নমেন্টকে। এতে করে যেটা হবে বলা হচ্ছে ব্রেন ড্রেন আর ব্রেন ওয়াশিং, আমাদের সচিব মহোদয় ব্রেন গেইন যাতে আমরা করতে পারি, এটা আপনারা দয়া করে করবেন। আমি আই এম রিয়েলি গ্রেটফুল যে আপনারা আমাকে ইউ হ্যাভ প্রোভাইডেড মি দিস অপরচুনিটি টু সে ফিউ ওয়ার্ড। আই হ্যাভ লার্ন লট অফ থিংস, এবং আমি কখনো কোথাও গেলে শেখার জন্য যাই। আপনাদের কথাগুলো আমাকে অ্যাজ সেক্রেটারি কমিউনিকেশন আমাকে হেল্প করবে। আমরা কথা দিচ্ছি যদি কংক্রিট কিছু পাই, আপনারা যদি একমত হন, আমরা কিন্তু একটা পরিবেশ তৈরি করতে সক্ষম হয়েছি। এখন কিন্তু ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশন অনেক সহজতর হয়ে যাবে, বিকজ we are now capable of implementing, because we have a team, very good team. এবং আপনারা যে যত নেগেটিভ কথাই শুনে থাকেন না কেন, এখন অনেক পজিটিভ বিষয় আছে সরকারে। এবং আগে যেটা বলেছি আমি, there is a very good environment, congenial atmosphere for implementing any program. বাস আমাদেরকে বলবেন যে কি করতে হবে এবং কিভাবে করতে হবে। এই দুটো জিনিস খুব সহজ জিনিস, সাধারণ জিনিস আমাদেরকে বুঝিয়ে দেবেন, তাহলে আমরা এটা করতে পারবো। এবং আমি মনে করি ইয়েস, আমি অনেক বছর আগে একটা আর্টিকেল লিখেছিলাম, আপনারা জানেন হিউম্যান ডেভেলপমেন্ট রিপোর্ট জাতিসংঘ UNDP, and I had also a small contribution in that. So I wrote an article, one of my friend who is in York University now, আমরা একটা আর্টিকেল লিখেছিলাম যে হিউম্যান ফ্যাক্টর অফ ডেভেলপমেন্ট। তখন কিন্তু হিউম্যান রিসোর্স ডেভেলপমেন্ট নিয়ে বেশি কাজ হচ্ছিল। আমরা নট অনলি হিউম্যান রিসোর্স ডেভেলপমেন্ট, ইফ ইট ইজ নট হিউম্যান ডেভেলপমেন্ট, সো আমরা বলি যে আমরা উই ওয়ান্ট এফিশিয়েন্ট পিপল, বাট এফিশিয়েন্ট পিপল necessary আমাদের সব কাজে, but good people, we need also good people. So we have to think about human factor of development, that is very important. এই লোকগুলো ভালো না হলে, আমরা অনেক এক্সপেরিয়েন্স করে দেখেছি, যেখানে আপনি ভালো লোকটা দিতে পারেন সেখানে কাজ হচ্ছে, সেখানে রিসোর্স কম হলেও কাজ হবে, লোকটা ভালো, নট অনলি এফিশিয়েন্ট বাট গুড পিপল। সো আসুন আমরা সবাই মিলে কাজ করি। এবং আমাদের ওয়েবসাইট আছে, যদি কখনো এখান থেকে ফিরে গেলেও যদি ইফ ইউ হ্যাভ এনি সাজেশন প্লিজ প্রোভাইড, আমরা রেডি অ্যান্ড উই হ্যাভ ওপেন মাইন্ড। থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, থ্যাংক ইউ এভরিওয়ান।